Welcome to Legends of Grayskull, the podcast that dives deep into the mythology of Masters of the Universe, with your hosts Matthew Dooch and Shawn Scavana. News, reviews, remasterings and more are just ahead on Legends of Grayskull.
Hello everybody, welcome to episode 66 of Legends of Grayskull, the fan podcast where we discuss the history, the mystery, the magic, and mythology of He-Man, She-Ra, Eternia, Etheria, Nordor, Primus, New Adventures, Old Adventures, Ladybird, UK Annuals, comics, mini-comics, anything and everything you can think of with that He-Man, She-Ra, Masters of the Universe, Princess of Power, that Mattel logo down in the corner, and maybe we'll even talk a little bit of Wonder today. I'm Matthew Dooch, here not as always with Matthew Rodriguez.
Hey,
Matthew.
hey, thanks for having me.
How we doing today?
I heard, looks like Shawn's not here yet, so it's just us.
It's just us. Shawn should be. Don't worry, fans. Shawn's on his way.
I know. I don't want them to tune out now. All of a sudden, they're you'll see this episode will drop, and the length of listened to or watched views, it'll be like we watched for 30 seconds, noticed Shawn was gone, and
58. It'll be 58 seconds will be the average view.
Yeah.
Shawn's not there. I'm out. I'll be back next week. No worries. We're told he's on his way. Until then, we'll try and pick up the slack. But I make no promises. So, we'll start off today. I got a couple pickups to show off.
Yep.
I'm going to rip open at least one of them here. But I've been waiting for you guys. I've been waiting for you viewers. I don't want to do it without you guys. First thing I got up here, I got the Hot Wheels Battle Cat Monster Truck.
Nice.
I am loving what Hot Wheels is doing right now.
Where did you find it?
Meijer. Finally got it at Meijer.
Nice.
Actually, it's funny because I checked the pegs like I always do.
Yeah.
And I've been checking the back of the cards to see, because I don't remember any of the other wave. But earlier that day, I had been at Five Below. And they had the other cars from that wave there. I could look at the back, see that they were supposed to have a Battle Cat. Someone had gotten there before me. So then I went to Meijer, same thing. I'm looking at the card backs. I'm like, okay, they got the Battle Cat wave. And then for whatever reason, I walked down a little bit further, down more like, I think it was down towards the Matchbox. And I was shuffling around the play sets that are on the shelf below that, and sure enough, there was the Battle Cat sitting on the shelf there. So it's actually the same way I got my, he's not even here, but my Battle Ram, he had fallen down below. So check the shelves, guys. Don't just check those pegs. Even without the sneaky people, stuff just falls. And these are great. My son's got a couple of these already. They're really nicely done. They got some die cast, some plastic, and they got the fun squishable, recrushable car for you to run over.
Nice.
Good stuff. Your wife find this one yet?
My wife loves that. That's like her fit. And that's the thing that she took the longest to find out of everything.
Yeah.
Was that. And she finally came across it, and it's really cool. She's taken a liking to the Hot Wheels stuff. I think it's really cool.
Yeah, it's great. They made his tail like kind of a tailpipe, and the smokestacks on his helmet. They did a really good job on that. They did a similar thing in 2000X. They had a Battle Cat kind of monster truck.
I was not aware of that. I know we have the old was it Hot Wheels or Matchbox at that time? Matchbox maybe, and they came with a rolled up little poster.
It was still Hot Wheels.
It was Hot Wheels.
Yeah,
they came up with a rolled up little poster and the cars. We've got some of those.
Yeah, I think I got one. I still have one, the He-Man one with like the swords on the front of it. It's white.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
But yeah, those are fun. Those and the I haven't gotten any of the character, like where it's just painted on the side, the Evil Lyn, Tila, whatever.
Okay.
But
yeah,
I like that, and I like what they're doing with the vehicle ones, the Land Shark, Battle Ram, and Wind Raider.
Yeah. Yeah, I really like them.
And then the other thing I got, thanks to the tip from an amazing friend, is I got the He-Man and the Ground Ripper Eternia Mini, and then the Skeletor and Rotan Mini. God,
Nice.
These things are killing it.
Yeah.
They look great. These I'm not going to open because it's kind of been a thing with my son. My youngest son, I've been doing all the minis with him. I've been giving him the 2-packs and, for birthdays and Christmas, and just you did good on a report card or whatever.
Nice.
So I'm going to keep these, and these will end up being gifted to him at some point too.
Mm-hmm.
Just been a fun little thing. We got through the 2-packs and got the castle built, and we've been picking up the clamshelled ones and everything. So
nice.
Good little memories.
Yeah, with those, it's interesting that they obviously they did Battle Fist with Fisto, back in the day, 2000X, and then now the Ground Ripper. And it seems like, I'm curious because I know Marvel, it seems like they bypass that stuff by saying they title it differently. Like they say Marvel's, whatever. To I would assume it's just to kind of bypass the kind of quirky laws when it comes to copyrights and trademarks.
To me, I often wonder why they can't just explore the kind of misspellings or something like a lot of people do. Like, could you call it, road, but spell it, RODE or something? I mean, just something like that, right. Where instead of
when they do the Ripper is with a Y in it or something,
add an extra P in there, like they did. Like Screech has the extra E,
Yep.
Oh, yep. I'm getting a notification here, guys. Don't worry, this podcast is saved. We have a late entry here. We're he's sideways, but he's coming. Excuse me. Don't worry, guys. There we go. Oh, glorious. Yes. Little off center, but we'll take it. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Shawn Scavarna is here. Thank you. Thank God you're here. Our viewership has plummeted to negative numbers.
I lost the cosmic key. What can I say? Oh, Lordy.
I told Matt that people are going to start watching that and notice you're not there, and then they're just going to click next video.
Oh, right. No. You're so dreamy. They're fine. They're fine.
Oh, Shawn Scavarna.
The minute they see me show up, now we'll click done. And we'll move on from there.
Recording in progress.
Oh, Shawn Scavarna. Thanks for joining us today. How you doing, buddy?
Oh, it's Memorial Day, and my kids discovered that next door there was a barbecue going on and decided to just crash the party. So that's why. Wow. And luckily our neighbors like my kids quite a lot. So then they're like, oh no, it's fine. They can come over, and they got to play with some kids. That's great. And I'm like, but I'm missing recording with my friends. So here I am.
No joke. We had either my nephew or my niece. It was either I think it was my nephew. I think it was Chris's graduation party. And my wife, for those who don't know, is Mexican. Very large family. You get them all together, and of course you got to invite everybody. You got to invite all the Theas, the Theos, everybody. So it's always a big part. Oh, and then so it's her sister, and then her husband is Puerto Rican. So get both sides together. Good Lord. But so it was a graduation party. There was this kid running around the whole time, and nobody really knew him. But, there's so many, friends, family, everything. Like, there's so many people who are all just like, he belongs to somebody. It was getting down towards the end of the night, and it was basically just family left, and this kid's still here. And then we kind of start questioning, like, who is that? Is that, is this so-and-so's kid? Is it this, that? And then not long after we started putting that together, we got these parents knocking at our door going, who lived like 3 houses down. They're like, you haven't seen a little boy that looks like this? And we're like, yeah, we think he's in the backyard. He saw that there was
Wow.
a party, wandered over, had been eating and drinking and doing the bouncy house just all party long. It's like, okay.
Make himself at home. Hey,
right?
That's cool. Until you want to end the party, and then you're like, go home.
Go home.
Where's home? I don't know, but go home.
All right, so we were just showing you got anything recent you want to show off, Shawn? I just showed off the Battle Cat monster truck. You'll have to catch that on the replay. My Eternia minis I got. So.
The one night I ended up finally getting the battle ram that you showed off on the show.
The Hot Wheels one?
The Hot Wheels one. So that made me pretty happy. You already showed it off on the show. I don't need to show it off again. But yeah, for Masters, that's pretty much it. I haven't been able to do too much in the last month as much as I was. So mostly just being good financially as much as possible. But with everything coming up in the next month or two, oh boy. So this ought to be an interesting time. But one thing that I just saw on Facebook this morning that I wanted to throw out there and get your take, especially since Matthew Rodriguez is with us and he's a fan of the movie as well. I saw something about Anthony DeLongis saying he would be happy to be in the new movie, and he kind of threw his hat into the ring to be the new Man-at-Arms, possibly. And I'm like, what do you got? Have you talked about that yet?
No.
What do you think of
you held that too close to your chest. I did see that. I don't know.
There's no credence to it. I'm not saying it's definitely, but when I look at him now that he's older, what do you guys think if the potential there?
What's the last name?
The longest.
The guy that played Blade.
DELONGIS.
That's why it sounded familiar, but I'm like, what?
But now that he's older, he's got the hair, he's got the mustache going and all that.
He looks like Man-at-Arms. I'll give him that.
He does.
I saw the picture of him today. He definitely does, and he's not only an actor, stuntman, fight choreographer. If I'm recalling correctly, he taught Michelle Pfeiffer how to use the whip in Batman Returns. What else did he do? One of the Indiana Jones, didn't he? I should pull up his.
He's choreographed quite a lot of things. I've seen some interviews with him. I know the Michelle Pfeiffer one in particular because I showed my daughter that one, and she was amazed when we watched Batman Returns earlier this year that she got that in one take. Yeah, and I'm like, and here's the guy that did it, But
I've seen the kind of the reverse angle of the video of just behind the scenes when they do that take,
right?
Mm-hmm.
And then after they finish it, everyone just starts cheering.
Mm-hmm.
That was pretty cool. I like the guy. I like the guy. I like that he's always kind of loved the property. You could tell that he definitely cares.
Mm-hmm.
And even if it didn't come down to him playing a specific actor or if he's reprises his role, but for him to be involved even behind the scenes with stunt stuff, I think that'd be an awesome thing for them to do. I think that's something that they definitely could consider because again, out of all of that old school cast, not to throw out anybody else, but I definitely know that him specifically when it comes to just the world and the fans and everything, he's definitely always been, very popular and very like, hey, I love it. It was an awesome journey for me and that type of stuff. So that's cool.
He seems always accessible to anybody that wants to talk shop with him about it, which that's pretty awesome as far as I'm concerned, because you could tell it makes him happy that people still enjoy it to this day.
Right.
And it is like
my bad.
You're good. I was just going to say he's always, and we touched on this a little bit in actually Matt Rodriguez's last episode with us. He was very serious in that role. He took his role very seriously, and that's all the actors that really stood out in that movie. You can tell because they took it seriously. Frank Langella, Meg Foster, Anthony. It's like they were not playing it up for camp. They read that script and they said, no, this is a real world and we're going to embrace that. So I would take him in anything.
And it definitely translated. Like,
that's what I'm saying.
It translates well.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I feel like people forget that just because it's pretend, you don't have to ham it up as pretend. So I'm reminded of, I think, like behind the scenes, like old school Star Wars videos where they showed some of the auditions.
Yeah.
They showed like some girl, like right before they show, it was like she was auditioning for Princess Leia. And like every time she said a different place, because it was a fake place, she was like, then we're going to go to so-and-so. And like, she tried to make it sound like all this crazy.
Yeah.
And it just sounded so kind of fake and hammy.
Mm-hmm.
And then when Fisher did it, it was just like nonchalant. Like, I'm going to the corner grocery store. I'm going to the town next door. It's a 15-minute drive down the block. And the way she said it, it was just so natural. And so for these people to, as actors, realize like it's in the escapism of it. Like, where like Anthony was Blade. He took it serious. I am that character. And it translates so well when he's not necessarily, and sometimes it does work in certain cases to wink at the audience. But definitely for his role and for Frank's role, it wasn't needed at all.
No. And it's like we said, like I know I mentioned it before, whether it was on the show or not, but watch Blade even when he doesn't have any lines. He's doing these little like these smirks and these grimaces, and just like he is in that moment regardless. Yeah. And that's what I liked about him. He took what easily could have been, sword guy number 4, and he really took it on his own. I've read interviews with him where he's like, yeah, I created this whole backstory for my character so I could, he's got this beef with He-Man and this and that. Like, this is a guy, who did not follow Masters at all, but when he got the script, he's like, I need to know where this guy's coming from. And that, I mean, it all translates over. I have complete faith in anything he would do.
And with a different actor, or if he didn't take it that seriously, the line, I've been waiting for a long time for this, or whatever one line is, that line is totally delivered differently if he wouldn't have thought of stuff, and if he wouldn't have taken it seriously like he did, it would have came off as just another line. But the way he says it, you're like, oh, I want to know, you're like, I want to know who this guy is,
Well, there's even the moment when they show the sorceress that He-Man has given up the power sword, and when he pulls the sword out, that there's this look he gives.
Yeah.
That to this day, like when I saw it when I was a kid, it was chilling. It was like, oh crap! Like this is these guys are obviously you don't want it to fall in the wrong hands, but the look on his face holding it. It's like, oh, you could tell there's the history of I've wanted to hold this for as long as I've known about it kind of a thing. And he brought that across beautifully. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm all for it. Any capacity you can get Anthony, you get him. He's in amazing shape. He's a great fight director. He's got all these martial arts belts and whatnot. He's trained in about everything. It said a couple other notable things I saw here. He did work with Harrison Ford, but it unfortunately was in Crystal Skull. So
doesn't count.
Everything he did was great, I'm sure. He came up with the style of fighting for the Highlander television series.
Okay.
And he's also done stuff for Mythbusters, Lock and Load, and Weapons That Change the World, and Deadliest Warrior. So he is all over the place.
Yeah.
Sony, cut that man a check. Get him on. Now imagine that. Not to rip on him, but imagine that. I mean, we saw how the announcement that Noah Centineo was going to play He-Man, and how that kind of like wah wah, and then he ended up leaving the part anyways.
Yeah.
But imagine just them going like, yeah, we're going to get Anthony DeLongis to even just to do our fight choreography or just to be Blade, and just imagine the amount of good press that would come from it. And I know it would, because he is one of those parts of the movie that is celebrated to this day. So just imagine that if Sony were to put that out, everyone's losing their minds about Anthony coming back, and then they're sitting there going like, why didn't any of you guys care about Noah at all?
Yeah, honestly, like he would be a good one. If they could get Frank Langella to even just show up and do something, that would be a hell of a lot of goodwill. Because everybody leaving that movie, there's nobody that'll talk smack about how Skeletor was portrayed. Meg Foster's still out there. She could be kind of fun to have in like a role in one way or another. And then obviously, if they talk Dolph into it, depending what day of the week it is, and if he had his coffee, I'm sure he'd be like, maybe. It depends. I mean,
I think he's ready to work though, so I think that'll be the biggest thing.
That I think in the last few years he's proven. Yeah, I'm not done with this acting gig yet. So there's a potential.
Now, out of the two, because obviously you hear Dolph Lundgren in new movie, there are two roles that are usually pretty quickly thrown out there. Which would you guys prefer, King Grayskull or King Randor for Dolph?
I think if they were to go that route with the flashback, even if it's just kind of a nice nod, I would prefer King Grayskull personally, because I think he would look incredible as a King Grayskull.
I think so too.
Yeah.
That was my pick.
That same here, only because it's. After watching Lord of the Rings, I am really hard-pressed to go, why wouldn't they at least have an opening like they did in Fellowship where they can detail, here's Eternia, here's the problems that have been going on for generations or millennia on Eternia, and now it leads to this critical moment in time where, this event is about to happen, a boy will become a man and blah, blah, and the idea, even just having him in like, imagine a Zack Snyder slow motion, him just standing. No. I don't want the Zack Snyder everything else. I want the slow motion of just him. I just want the Zack Snyder of him, and the idea of him turning around and almost doing like when we first saw him in the movie. He turns around, but he's dressed as King Grayskull versus being He-Man again. And there's that nod of, remember the last time you saw him? Now he's this guy, and.
Actually, that'd be pretty cool, and it would. I mean, obviously, it's not multiverse or anything like that, but it would almost kind of give that wink at like that was your He-Man, So your He-Man for this new generation is actually King Grayskull.
Exactly, and the thing I like about it is you see the sword he's holding, and then you see that being given to the actor that becomes our new Adam and He-Man. And it's like a literal passing of the torch to the new guy, to the new generation of fans.
That could be fun, too, if they do something similar to Eternity War with Adam actually use the Forge of Grayskull. I really like that addition there. And that comic where Adam reforges a sword and it's got like the spirit of King Grayskull with him. That could be a cool bit of symbolism there too. And just those, I think that's where Dolph would be best at. I don't want to see him as King Randor, a prominent role necessarily. I think he just needs like the flashback or when Adam gets the sword, stuff like that. Just those little things. It'd be cool too if they actually did King Grayskull in. I mean, he's got the cloak already, so give him the red cape, give him a different harness, give him that the snake. What do you call it? There's a name for it. That He-Man wears in the movie, that snake that's eating its own tail, the infinity kind of symbol. I can't think of the name of it. That sounds stupid.
Yeah. I mean, outside of a few minor details, you could have him, you could have him be very close to what he originally was, but now we maybe add a little stubble or add like the little braid in the back or something like that where no, I mean that would be that would be really cool and really honoring of just kind of the property. So I'm down.
And at the same time, I think it also helped those people who are like, well, King Grayskull's just a clone of He-Man. If you took that, it's a similar harness, but it's a few steps away by using that 87 movie symbol and everything else. So, I think it would help that camp too, where it's like, okay, look, he's not just a clone. It's similar but different. That way, it helps when Adam gets the power and he give him the traditional, costume, and he's making it his own.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I think it would be fun. I know there's a segment of the fandom that is they're not fans at all, but for me, I'm like, I kind of embraced it with 2000X for the simple fact that I was like, so now there's a Grayskull.
Right.
That's what the castle's named. It's not just the front of it. It's, now there's a reason it was called that. And I thought that it added a little something. I just enjoyed that. Whether or not it had the hero connection, it's like, that didn't matter to me. It was just fun to add an extra layer to that mythology.
I completely agree. All right, guys. My producer's yelling at me. We do have to take a commercial break right here. Stay tuned. We're going to be right back after these messages. We're going to be taking a look at some more modern wonders. So stay tuned.
Sounds good.
Legends of Grayskull will be back right after these messages.
Available now exclusively from PowerCon. We have the bundle of the Toys of He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, and He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, a Character Guide and World Compendium Supplement Volume 1. This PowerCon exclusive supplement edition follows up to the previously released Character Guide and World Compendium. PowerCon is the only place you can get this supplement, and you get both new books in one combo pack. Both books are 9 inches by 12 inches inside. The Character Guide supplement contains 168 pages, and the Toy Guide contains 752 fully colored pages full of details, pictures, bios, and more, covering the whole range of Masters of the Universe toys that we grew up with. Please head over now and get your exclusive bundle only at toyguide.thepowercon.com, or for our international listeners, bigbadtoystore.com. Hurry now, as the pre-order is already 90% sold out. These books are shipping now, and the last 10% will not last long.
And now, back to Legends of Grayskull.
All right, everybody, welcome back to Legends of Grayskull, episode 66. Again, we're here with Matt Rodriguez today, and Shawn Scavarna did show up. If you guys tuned out for a little bit, he is here. We're good to go. So stay tuned. Matt, big reason we're here today.
Yes.
You got some exciting news from the Ideas from Mars universe. So
yep.
We're going to jump over to Kickstarter in a minute. Why don't you just give us a little lead up here as to what we're going to talk about here today?
Well, essentially, a lot of, most of your fans might know, I started a few years back doing a couple comic books, ran into a couple friends that are very, very big into the Masters of the Universe world, and we decided to make our own universe. So basically, it's kind of our love letter to Masters. It's called Defenders of Eden, and between me, CJ Edwards, and Andrew Kramer, known on He-Man.org. Thanks to Val for having that whole thing set up years ago, where we all kind of jumped in and had fun with each other. And so yeah, long story short, did that book. We're in issue 3 right now. CJ is done with 18 pages, so that's going to be colored soon. And that kind of universe was always kind of its own thing. And since I was young, I always had ideas for superheroes, and creatively kind of stored up a lot of one-off characters and stuff like that. And since we were waiting for Defenders of Eden issue 3, I decided that it was time to a couple things clicked with certain stories and certain characters, and it just worked to make this own universe. So I guess I'll key you in this is sort of what happened, and then I'll give you the backstory of why nothing new is original. And so I always wanted the title Modern Wonders. I always thought it'd be cool, this kind of, I loved the TV show Heroes, especially season 1, and this idea of, what if we had superpowers? And when it came to the creative side of it, I always wanted it to be more of an original take. So I didn't want it to be mutants. I didn't want it to be ultras or, what is DC has kind of their own term that they use now, but
metas.
Metas.
Yeah. So I wanted to kind of create my own terminology, and so I kept landing on the term Modern Wonders for this comic. It would be sort of like my brand's version of Marvel's Amazing Fantasy back in the day. You'd have, Spider-Man issue, you'd have a Doctor Strange issue. So it'd be Modern Wonders. And then I started thinking, I'm like, wonders. Okay. It was like, what if you're a superhero? What if you're a wonder? Like, what if you have a power or something different about you? Again, whether it's good or bad or indifferent, something different about you, mutant ability. What if you had a wonder? And so then I landed on the idea that there's this DNA strand called the 1-D-R. So it was like the wonder gene.
Right.
And if you had this gene, you had an ability. You had something different about you. And the other thing that I landed on was that, it'd be, 15 to 20% of the population. And I didn't want it to be that if you were a teenager, you'd get it because of puberty.
Right.
I didn't want it exactly to be like you're just born with it and you have it when you're a baby. I wanted it to be a little bit more mysterious and a little bit more kind of questionable in the sense of if you're a 47-year-old garbage man and you're pulling this garbage can back to, the side of the road, and all of a sudden you realize your hand just melted the handle, and you look at your hand and you just smile and you're just like, I'm a wonder.
Yeah.
So I have it where this genome can kind of happen and reveal itself at any given age, but then it can also disappear from you at any given age or time. So not that this happens every issue that all of a sudden a guy doesn't have his powers, but just for the fact and storytelling wise that you could lose your abilities as quickly as you could gain them. I sort of felt like that idea had not been explored very much, at least with the big books and the big companies. So that's where I landed, and I'm just like, wow. So I'm building kind of this world of superheroes, and they're wonders, and there's good guys and bad guys, and people that don't want their wonders, and people that wish they did have wonders, and no joke. So this book, Modern Wonders, this is kind of a preview issue. A local guy drew for me named Bill. That's my original logo, Modern Wonders and Unexplained Mysteries. And that's Ember. And he can breathe fire. And so this came out like a year ago. This was even before I decided that Wonders was going to be kind of the backbone of it. Like, oh, this is awesome. I'm original. I'm so creative. And then I'd say a month later, after I landed on all the Wonder stuff, a friend of my daughter's at school was like, you really got to try this thing called My Hero Academia. Yep. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'm not too big into animes. I'm going to try this. Season 1, episode 1. If you are born with a quirk, you have a special ability. Yep. Like the first line. And I'm just like, okay, like, obviously it's been done. And obviously it's just the different lens. And so hopefully with this book, I can tweak the lens enough and make it creative enough and fun enough. And the story's engaging enough. But it was just one of those things where, just like anything I've done, I'm like, I have to admit that there are roots of, whether it's from stuff I've known in the past that just is in my mind, or stuff that I've never seen.
Yeah.
Creatively, it's very, very hard to come up with 100% new idea.
Well, there isn't. I mean, I know neither of you guys could name something that's 100% original. It's not, with everything that's come before, all the movies, TV shows, literature, mythology, anything and everything you can think of, everything's been done somewhere. I mean, that's the be all end all of it. And I think that's where a lot of guys get hung up, is they're trying to be, no, I need to be original. I can't do this because such and such did it. And it's like, if you look hard enough, you're gonna find something. I mean, even you look at some of the superheroes and stuff that have come out, even without being intentional. I mean, there are characters that have come out within months of each other, which means there's no way, Marvel could have been ripping off DC. They would just happen to create the same kind of thing at a similar time. Be that where the culture is or whatever. I will say I like what I'm hearing about the ambiguity of the Wonder Gene, because obviously it sounds great story-wise and story potential, and also pulling outside of the story like I like to do, it offers you a lot of creative freedom. The less defined it is, the less chance you have of messing up later when you're like, well, I want to do this, but I already said that we can't do this. And it's funny, you mentioned Heroes. I think that was one of its big problems, is it tried too hard and too fast to define everything. And so then when they got later seasons, it's like, well, we got to kind of go back on this or whatever, and that weakens the story. So I like the fact that you're going, let's do it a little more broad, a little more mysterious, and that gives you room to play with.
Well, I think that there's a beauty in that mystery, that the undescribed side of things. So for me, growing up an X-Men fan, which is definitely another property that I love next to He-Man, is that Wolverine being Logan, like, what's his backstory? Like, and it's just Weapon X, and it's very mysterious.
God, that was I come from back then.
I'm like, James Howlett, who's that guy? Like, all this, like, let's give him bone claws, let's give him this name, let's give him this story. I'm like, I'm very boo down with James Howlett. So whether it be Defenders of Eden, whether it be Modern Wonders or Disciple 6, or even my novel, The World Within My Walls, there are pieces of it that are missing and have been missing for several years. And I will leave them there intentionally missing, because I did not get goosebumps yet when I come up with the idea of what's supposed to be there. So for example, it doesn't affect this book at all, but and you guys have thousands and thousands of fans that are going to watch this, so they're obviously going to know this stuff. But there's two characters, and they've been revealed already, that are part of this issue 1, and it's Cloud Kid. He's 13 years old, and Long Range. And Long Range is very much a he has the ability, the wonder, to see things very precise. So he's definitely on a Hawkeye on Red Bull type of thing. Yeah. And so, but he definitely has that kind of a Captain American quality. He wants to serve and protect. And I'm like, Cloud Kid has this ability to fly, but he doesn't quite know how to control it. So they design him these wings, these fins, he calls them. And he's kind of this, he's got the goggles, and it's definitely kind of a throwback Rocketeer sort of look. And I wrote this issue, months and months ago. And all of a sudden last week I realized, wait a minute, because in one of the panels I have Cloud Kid's father, and I wanted him to be kind of an old-fashioned pilot. So he's got this scarf on, in this panel. And it clicked to me. I'm like, Cloud Kid's dad and Long Range, they served in the military together.
Right.
Like, and all of a sudden now I have this new thread of things to think about and go down and to write, where before I left it open-ended because I didn't know, and I didn't have the best idea, because all of those really good ideas, rarely do they always happen at the exact same time, where I already printed this title on a book, and I didn't even realize that this was going to be the foundation. The Wonders was going to be the foundation of this entire, Wonderverse, this superhero universe for Ideas from Mars, where I can kind of collect all these characters that I've had. Some of them, again, months old, some of them decades old, where they kind of fit all within this world. So I definitely try to keep myself in the place of, hey, if that doesn't fit right now, don't just force something there.
Right.
Especially if you're putting this stuff out, and kind of, because people want to follow an idea and follow a world, and that's what's fun about it, the creative side of it. But definitely, and we've talked about it on your show before, is that if you're going to set up the world and you're going to give me the premise of the world, as a viewer, I'm going to probably subconsciously or consciously hold you accountable to a certain level. So when something doesn't line up, I'm like, all right, come on. Like,
right.
Come on, whether it be a big Marvel movie or a Goofy movie, it's like, hey, you set up, and that's one of my favorite movies, by the way, Goofy movie. But
yes.
I didn't even mean to drop that one, but that's a fantastic flick.
That's not the first time actually Goofy movie has been brought up on this podcast, and
that's why this is a good
somebody does not appreciate it like he should. So
I'm old.
Just saying.
That's the difference.
I don't care. That is a classic movie. You are a father. You will watch it now. You'll engage with it even more. Not to mention the songs. Powerline. Powerline is freaking amazing. Better than Michael Jackson.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I have seen it.
It's definitely underrated.
It is, and I have seen it, but it was past the point of me going to see the Disney movies in my personal chronology. So, it's like, and also the topics on it in the movie would have touched on me being Max versus my dad. And now on the other side of things, I know exactly what you're talking about. So I'm not saying that I don't like it and I hate it. It's just, it's not to you guys what it is versus me. But I do appreciate the themes in the movie. So
that's exactly what it was. When I was younger, I was Max, and I was looking at it through that lens. And now that I'm older, watching it with my kids, I'm looking at it through the lens of Goofy, and I'm like, it still works.
It does.
I look at it, and then I look at it, and I look at my son in the nightmare of him turning into his father, and I look at my son, and I just shake my head. I'm like, this is what you're gonna be, buddy. Right. He gets so mad.
I get random glimpses, of myself in certain facial expressions, whatever, just like walking past, a car window and you see a reflection of yourself, and for a second there, I don't know if you guys get, but for a second there, I'm like, shit, is that my dad? Like, I just whatever the facial expression catches right or whatever, but I'm like, dude, I'm looking at my father right here. Like, that's crazy.
If I let my beard grow out enough, I look in the mirror and go, holy shit, David Cross just broke into my house. I don't look like my dad enough or my mom enough one way or the other. I just am me, but I look more like David Cross the older I get and the balder I get. Boy, is that really saying something.
Most of the douche males have even my cousins, like you line us all up, and even my wife said when she first met my extended family, she's like, how do almost all the guys in your family look exactly the same? And I'm like,
strong genes.
Okay, but getting back. But real quick, but what's even sadder is how great a Goofy movie is. Just stop there. Don't see an extremely Goofy movie, because that was just god awful.
Yeah.
It was a huge letdown.
It was a sequel. It was a sequel.
It was a direct-to-video sequel. Ugh. But Modern Wonders, that's what we're talking about. Yeah. So how far back would you say your oldest character comes from?
In this world?
Right.
I would say I would be 17, so 20 years. 16 or 17.
Right.
And again, this is just like name, power. Right.
Well, I was going to ask how much has changed since then from that original like.
So, the main two sets of characters in this first issue that we kind of talked to, one of them we saw a picture of them there. Basically, I have my old, very, very, very old drawings.
Oh, wow.
So Ember So Ember, he can breathe fire, and so his ability, his wonder, he has like this birthmark around his mouth, and I created him probably, I'd say 15 years ago, and he has this kind of this grayish, kind of this birthmark that never quite goes away.
Right.
And if you've ever seen the movie Reign of Fire, familiar?
Long time ago.
Yeah, I saw it once.
It's a sleeper. It's a sleeper. I'm definitely Christian Bale fan, and I'm definitely anything apocalyptic.
Yeah.
Anything apocalyptic. So the way they describe this chemical reaction in the back of the throats of the dragons when that movie came out, it just always stuck with me, like how cool they like scientifically and chemically tried to describe why they could breathe fire. And so I created Ember so that this coating actually was inside of his throat as well. So when he used his wonder and he would breathe, then it would protect him. It would protect his skin.
Right.
But then obviously the other side of it is he has this birthmark around his mouth. And so you're very self-conscious of this situation. So the more he would use it and the harder he would use it, it would get bigger and bigger. And so if you used it a lot, it's starting to burn off your eyebrows, but it's turning gray. It's starting to burn off your hair, and it's so growing in that way, but then it always kind of reduces itself back to that eventually. And so between him being the character that has a wonder and he doesn't really want it, and then you have the flip side where there's a character and his superhero name's Ash, his name's Jonathan Meadows, where he's just a human that wants to serve and wants to fight and wishes he had a wonder. And he I don't think it's really given too much away to your fans, but he never gets one. It's not like My Hero Academia, but he never gets one, but he's from that perspective of it. And so the way this 17-year-old Jonathan, which his name's Ash, and then the way Ember, who's in his early 20s, views these things are completely different. So we get a lot of that contrast where one wishes they were like the other. And so I don't know when it came out, but the original Hero show came out, I'm sitting up there and I'm watching, and I think of like a director. I'm trying to think of like, oh, what would I do? What would I do? And I always thought that it would be really cool to have a Robin-esque character show up in the TV show Heroes that would love to would love to have a power, but he didn't. So it'd add this kind of contrasting element to Peter Petrelli or, one of these heroes that had the ability. And then you had this guy that's like, you don't get it. You don't get what you have. You don't understand it. I wish I could be like you. And this other guy's like, I wish I could give it to you, type of thing. You don't get it. Not every wonder is a great thing. We've got some cool characters in this story that their abilities aren't, that big of a deal, but they're just an ability. And so to have that contrast, I think really helps with storytelling and helps with perspective, because again, the best thing you can do is to relate to people and characters that you relate to. And so I think that most of us in our lives, we've been in a place where we felt like we wanted to be like someone else or wanted to be in the other position. And then at other points in our lives, we've been the person that wished we could be in that position, so that little bit of contrast. And then that's the first set. And then the next set we talked about, which is Cloud Kid, who's kind of that happy-go-lucky, he's in the sky and personality-wise and power-wise. And then Long Range, who's very, wants to serve and protect. So those are kind of the four main characters that we deal with in issue 1. But yeah, so that's it. Right now we're live on Kickstarter. Thank you so much for sharing that little peek for your guys. And we are officially fully funded. So the book is going to be made and it's going to be printed, and I think we have close to 50 backers right now, but it's going to be funded.
Let's jump over there right quick.
Yeah.
Set up.
And the thing that can kind of mess around with that is once people see it's funded, sometimes people are less likely to try to back it or want to get involved with it. But I definitely, if you can go to the Kickstarter page and watch the video, shout out to Jeffrey Haney, one of my buddies from high school. He made this video for me. I kind of told him what I wanted, and he made it and knocked it out of the park, however you say that. and we're super excited. So now we're on the back end thinking of stretch goals. We're probably going to do these trading cards with their bios on the back. We're going to release 10 of those. We've got Fish Lee, who has a print at the bottom that we have a little print that we're going to give to people. Dan Brenus, who's an old school He-Man.org guy. He definitely has always helped me out with my art. I chicken scratch stuff and I'll send stuff to Dan. He'll draw it and whip it up. This new guy, his name, I think it's just pronounced David, but it's spelled Deivid. And I ran into him through some friends networking online that do art. And he's out of Brazil, and he's doing the line art and inks on this project. And he is an incredible artist. He's definitely very raw. But when Andrew throws his colors on top of it, he has done a great job. So if you actually scroll back up, I'll show you. You can just kind of see. So this is, keep going all the way to the poster, maybe.
The poster.
Right there, yeah. So this is, I'd say about 75% of the characters so far that we have in the world. There's 2 teams here, a team of 4 and then a team of 5, and then most of them are kind of just these heroes in this world. And at the top, in blue with the mask, he's kind of the original Golden Age hero. So he's kind of the first guy that has an ability, and he goes by the name Wonder. And he's the first guy in the world to kind of take on a mask and take on this persona and become a hero. So he's definitely those few guys at the top there, a couple Golden Age guys. And I don't know if you guys are familiar locally, I run a Comic-Con here in
just
Holland.
about to point out, yep.
And it's called Tulip City Comics and Toy Fair. We've ran it for the past 4 years. And I made this hero that's Captain Tulip. You can see him jumping there. So he's definitely a Batman-style character, but he's got the wooden shoes and the tulip on his chest. And it was just a way for me to kind of throw in another character that I just kind of had, and throw him into this world. So, and you might have a few fans that know Pete McCarthy from the My Wife Is Going to Kill Me podcast, but he's over here. That's the Marshal of Muskegon. He's one of the Wonders, and he's kind of he has an ability. I haven't shared it yet, and I'm not going to share it until it happens. But he's definitely kind of like the Casey Jones of that group of characters, where he just kind of wants to break the skulls of knuckleheads and protect his city. And obviously being a firefighter, that kind of went along with his character, since that's what Pete does for a living. So, yeah.
I like it. You got lots of interesting characters, interesting designs here.
Yeah, so if you stay, actually, you can scroll down to the stretch goals. I'll just show you one, just kind of to show an example of how this stuff works. Is that
stretch goals?
Yeah, the guy down there at stretch goals, that guy's name is Distort, and Distort I've had for, I'd say, 15 years. But so I'll just show you a couple. So that's what he looks like now, and he has the ability to kind of distort and stretch his body. And I'll show you. I don't know if you guys can see that, but that's a picture. That's the first picture I ever drew of the guy. And then over here we have, I don't know if you can see, but that's him with some of this team that, or at the time it was called Nextem. And I was, obviously it's very X-Men influenced, but just kind of a group of heroes with super. So that's all I basically did, was I just make these folders of these characters and drawings, and this was a way that I could again get all this stuff out of my head and find the right partners to kind of pursue this dream. So again, with Ideas for Mars, I never meant it to be kind of a catalog of producing several different comic books. At the time, it was just a way for me to publish Defenders of Eden. But since during COVID everything slowed down with issue 3, I I just decided that it was time to kind of, since Defenders of Eden issue 1 and 2, the Kickstarters went so well, and even with Disciple 6, I just felt like it was time to kind of have this other universe where I love my Defenders of Eden, and that's my love letter to Masters, but this world where it's kind of my love letter to, X-Men, essentially, is kind of X-Men and Heroes. So, yeah.
So you are already fully funded. We're at 1,857. Why don't you run us through your stretch goals here so that they know what's coming up the more we hit.
Yep. So when we get to $2,000, we're going to actually add 4 pages of art just from some of my early concepts of these characters, and show you the process that they go through, because some of them are very close to what I originally intended them to be. And some of them, I am a creative collaborator. If your idea or your twist on something will make the character or the story better, I will always take backseat to that. And that's something that definitely, CJ and Andrew have helped out with Defenders of Eden. But so we're going to add some art that I've done, some art that CJ has done, some art that David has done, and Dan Brenus as well. So add those pages of art. And then 2,200, I have 4 postcards that are made of different characters. And so we're going to include those. We're going to include the postcards into your reward level. And then the 2.4 is when we get to where Dan drew kind of the golden age poster of all of the heroes there. And Dan has kind of a cool, definitely vintage style art. He drew all of my vintage Defenders of Eden comic books that are these little mini comics, basically. And if you find him online, you can see anything that's mini comic looking. When it comes to my Defenders of Eden, Dan does it. He does a great job. So that's kind of the next one. And then you get to 2.6. There's an awesome guy locally. If you look him up, Fish Lee, he does a lot of indie art. He's a wonderful artist. He drew our character Wonder. And so we'll include a print of that. And then if we ever just dreaming big, if we were to get to the 5,000 mark, I think 18, what is it? Did I right? 18 pages. So again, we definitely have, some people don't realize how much art goes into stuff before even production and before you even see the final result. So you might get a character or two that you might not even have seen in this issue, and you're going to get art and descriptions and stuff like that. So it'll be basically another comic book, but it'll be like this one where it's just the 18 pages instead of the 24.
Sure.
And it's just going to be filled with art and have a new cover, most likely drawn by CJ Edwards.
Nice.
And then if we were to get to the 8K, we'd do the full trade paperback. And so that's basically the 3 issues. The first issue is 24 pages. So the next 2 will be 24 pages. And we would be able to do that and just do the trade paperback version. So if you wanted the separate issues, you could get them. But if you wanted the trade paperback all in one hardcover or soft cover, we'd have that available. One of the biggest tips that I ever got when it came to Kickstarter came from a guy who actually has done work on a few of my books, and his name's Gary Scott Beatty. He's been a professional letterer and creator in the industry and also colorist for 25 years or so, and he lives in Muskegon, Michigan, which is an hour north of me here. And I said to him, like, I'm watching some of these comic book Kickstarters, and this is kind of expensive. I'm definitely not a pay your guys later guy. I want to pay them for the work that they do. And he said, well, Matt, the advice I can give you is it's kickstart my comic, not fund my comic. And so some people don't realize that. So in this, all of this stuff has been paid for. Our funding goal is not a full, by any means, recoup of my funds that I've given to these artists. That number is just me recouping some of my pay that I've had to pay the colorist and the line artist and the letterer and all that stuff, and the editor, Casey Pierce. And so when he told me that, it became much more obtainable in my mind to say, hey, this is a labor of love. I am funding this. This is a hobby. if I can recoup some of the costs that I pay out while also building a fan base, that would make the most sense, because the last thing I need is to have a Kickstarter be like, oh, well, I need $3,500 because that's what it costs, and then it not fund, and then I don't get to mail it out to all these people. So we set the goals very reasonable and keep the backer levels very simple, where it's not like, 100 different, and that's what the stretch goals. I mean, we were funded in 27 hours, so I had to come up with these. I had to come up with these stretch goals because I've never been really in the position to like try to further fund it. But now I'm going to be at this spot where hopefully these backers continue to share, which they have, and thanks to you guys on your podcast, being able to share the commercial and share the Kickstarter page, where the more eyes that see it, the more chance we get to kind of continue to fund the project down the road, because this isn't me. I've been blessed to have a job where I make decent money. So I'm not like living off of this, where I'm luckily enough to be in the position where I can pay these artists. But if I could just recoup my money that I pay these artists and print these books and send them out, I'd be completely fine, because at the end of the day, I want these ideas to be shared. I want them out of my head. I want to create this, like one of the levels that we have is a lot of people like those new blank cover comic books where you can draw on the cover. And so one of the levels for little kids is that I'll include this. It's the same issue.
Real quick here. I don't mean to cut you off. We'll jump to the reward levels in a second here.
Nope, you're good.
I just wanted to clarify about the trade paperback here.
Yeah.
So we hit 8K, you're making the trade all at once. But now you said the single issues will still be available. So will the trade be like an add-on, or just if you hit 8K, everybody gets a trade?
The trade will be an add-on.
Okay.
So if we hit the 8K, there'll be a button that you can do, because essentially, because we have issue 1 coming out in August, the trade wouldn't be, I mean, shoot, if we hit 8K and the trade is being made, those guys are going to work, and we'd probably have it out in December, which is fine.
Right.
But we wouldn't be able to hit that goal right away, so it'd have to be an add-on.
Gotcha.
But I'm sure as far as dollar amount, some of that trade cost will be eaten in the pledge level, so it's not going to be kind of a new, a whole new, you have to add, however much a trade would cost. Definitely you get to kind of what would it be, subtract the single issue pledge or whatever.
Gotcha.
But yeah, that's where the 8K would be, hey, we made enough money to pay those guys to get to work. And so between the 4 people I have on it that you can scroll to the team, is that David out of Brazil, to pay him for his lines, and then you have Andrew, who handles the colors. You have Andrew's brother, Jared. He goes by Jay. He does the flat work for Andrew, so Andrew can focus on the rendering and then also the lettering. And then Casey Pierce, who does the editing. She's been a breath of fresh air, and she's definitely the hardest working woman in comics.
Yeah.
If you look her up, she has some great stuff. She has a book called Nora that is fantastic and an awesome concept. Look her up, but she works for a company called Red Pen Media. And so she does full-time kind of editing for a lot of it ends up being horror stories or horror movies or novels or comic books, but she definitely leans towards that genre. But she definitely, if you pay her, she'll edit for you. So, but she's been awesome. She's been a guest at my Comic-Con, and she's done panels, and my girls got to see, she had a panel called "What's It Like Being a Woman in Comics?" Mm-hmm. And so she sat down for half an hour and kind of talked to all these girls that are interested in getting into comics. And so she's definitely, some of her books are done through Source Point Press, which is a Michigan-based indie publisher. But that's
where I've seen it. The Walmart end caps, right? That's that one.
Walmart?
Yeah, they
do. No, that's Allegiance Arts. That's another guy.
You're
yeah,
right.
that's Allegiance. That guy's guy crazy talented too. But yeah, but Source Point Press is a pretty small indie company out of Michigan, but they've grown nationally to where now they distribute so many books, and they have a lot of cool things. They have a book called Monstrous, and they have Nora, which is a fantastic book. I looked them up. They're out of the Flint area, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
They're about 2 hours away from me, but those guys always come to my Comic Cons, and they're a fantastic company. So,
and I did want to point out here right quick, especially for our audio listeners, on the Kickstarter page, there is 4 pages.
5 technically, because that double spread is the reveal. Okay. The title of this issue is History of Law, and so there's a spread page there. So it's 5 pages. Yeah. So we wanted to show, and obviously all the pages are done and the script's done, but we wanted to show a little taste of what the value or what the production, what the quality is, as far as his line work and the panels and the scenery and everything. So we wanted to show, hey, you're not going in blind. We're going to show you what the book looks like, because I definitely think that the professional quality of the book is helps as well, because if I was to draw it and it looks like chicken scratch and people are like, it sounds cool when you talk about it, but I'm looking at this page and I'm not really that interested. But when they see these logos and these characters, it takes a life of its own. So
no, that's awesome that you guys included that page. I mean, 5 full pages, nothing's blurred or edited or anything. Like you get to read the first 5 pages right off the bat there. That's awesome.
Yep.
And let me scroll down a little bit. Let's go ahead and talk about the rewards. So obviously you're pledging so that this gets made, but at the same time, you got some good stuff back for us. So, go ahead.
Yep. Yeah, we've got kind of the general. Somebody actually did the general dollar, the dollar award, which is kind of cool. Just say, hey, thank you so much. Mm-hmm. Some people, and again, every dollar helps. So we get some people that are like, hey, I can't support you too much financially, but I can share you, which is awesome. And we do appreciate that. There are some people too that when we see the back end, some people come from Facebook, some people come from, Kickstarter, and there are some people that come from just kind of a general comic book search on Kickstarter. So that's really cool that they kind of can scroll through all the options of, hey, what could I buy this month? And they see mine and they're like, hey, this looks interesting enough. And so that's really cool. The $10 pledge is the Digital Wonder, which is essentially, if you prefer kind of just a digital file of the comic book, we give a link to you guys and you can download it and read it on the computer, on the phone, on the iPad, all that good stuff. So that seems like that one ends up being a little bit more, for the guy that doesn't really collect physical books anymore. And then also a lot of my international friends kind of prefer that level because, it's just kind of an easy one and it's pretty low as far as the cost. So then you have the $15 exclusive first run, which is basically the comic. It's #1, hot off the press. And we have that one where we can mail it out to you. And then I have a lot of local fans, which is awesome that they kind of prefer, hey, can you deliver this to me? So I do have a local delivery kind of thing where, I don't know if you guys are familiar, but there's this internet sensation. Her name's the Toy Huntress.
I've heard rumors.
Yep. She does not wear an eye patch, but she does toy reviews. And that is my wife, and she loves to deliver these comic books for me. So the exclusive local print is her job that she has for ideas from ours. So
only select this if you're close. She's not driving over to Wisconsin.
No, yeah, she's doing about an hour is kind of the furthest she goes with that. If it's anything further than that and you click local, I'll try to fold it into a paper airplane.
Nice.
And the $20, the Premium Wonder, that's kind of a lot of people like that level because you're getting the issue 1, you're getting the bookmarks, you're getting the poster with all those characters on it, which is kind of a fun thing where if you want a little bit of art too, where again, some people, and I recommend to people all the time, same thing we talk about Masters all the time, is like, I'm seeing these He-Man and Skeletors in the aisle, and I'm just like, man, I hope random people just buy this for random kids. Like, maybe not just random kids in general. You're not just giving a kid something random like that. But
toys
just
for tots or...
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Seeing that type of stuff. So I recommend to people, hey, you know, if you got an FU or if you've got a niece that likes superheroes and would like to create something herself, and we include that blank cover where, you know, you have this world of this thing. No knock on the big guys like Image and DC and Marvel, but there's definitely something to be said when, I mean, I talked to my son's soccer buddies, and I'm just like, hey, what do you think of this character? And they're like, well, that's one of your characters. That's so cool. And it's just, whoa, this can be done on a local level where what is this? This is creative. This is cool. This isn't coming from, not that those places are machines, but this isn't coming from a big corporate machine. This is coming from an indie, you know, creator. So even if we get, you know, random people that are like, you know what, it looks fun, it looks colorful, it's definitely, you know, family friendly as far as that stuff goes. You know, yeah, I can buy a nephew or a niece, you know, this comic book for $20 and support this local artist, and it has a poster on it. And if that gets kids doing what I did, which was making these folders, you know, full of characters, you know,
do you have a size on the poster in mind, or?
Yep, the poster that poster is going to be 11 by 17.
Ooh, that's a good size. Nice.
Yeah. Anything bigger, we'd have to switch up a couple ways to mail it out. But I'm definitely going to make bigger posters. Maybe I could do that for an add-on or a stretch goal if somebody's interested in a bigger poster. I know that they can be made bigger, but I'd have to look into the shipping options because obviously we're dealing with tubes.
And at that point. The stickers, you're thinking those are probably gonna be what, like about penny size or nickel size, or?
No, those are going to be, I think they're 3 inches by 1.5, I believe.
Okay, that's a good size. Yeah. You don't want anything too small on those stickers. You got to watch out.
Yeah. Oh, you have to watch out who's printing them for you too, because if you're not familiar with the printer, you could end up getting something in the mail that you wonder why you even bought it. So you have the International Wonder, which is that $20 level, but can go anywhere in the world. Ooh, looks like I got somebody backing me.
You got one? Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes that ends up being Canada, so which isn't too far, but far enough to deal with international stuff. So
right.
Then we have the Premium Wonder, the local, again with the poster and stuff, and then that $25 one. That's the one that I definitely recommend to. For a kid with Wonder, where not only are we including the #1 issue and the posters, or the poster and the bookmarks, but I'm including a second #1 issue, but that second issue is going to have a blank cover with just the Modern Wonders logo, so that if this young adult or this kid or somebody has their own idea for a hero, or for a villain, or just for anything, for their own Wonder, if they want to make themselves into something, they can draw it on the front, which I thought would be kind of a cool option.
Yeah, those are real popular nowadays. I see lots of people taking those to like commission artists too, and having them do stuff on it too. That could be fun.
Yep. And the next one is the Ideas for Mars pack. This is actually a pretty favorite one of people that are jumping onto my stories later on where they missed the first few Kickstarters. Yeah. So the Ideas for Mars pack actually includes Defenders of Eden issues 1 and 2. It includes Disciple 6 issue 1. And then I'm actually including some surprise drawings by CJ Edwards that are some Defenders of Eden prints that I still have a few left over of, which are kind of cool character pictures and posters. So I'm going to include that stuff, which is, awesome. And then obviously this one, Modern Wonders, which is the exclusive preview featuring Ember, which actually does have a few pages where you realize what's happening in the new Modern Wonders issue 1. You realize what's happening to our main character because of a situation that happens in this book. It's not completely needed, but it's kind of cool to see. And it's also cool to see where we've come, because again, some of this dialogue would be different, and some of the explanations would be different if I would have had that Wonders idea happen when we printed this. It just didn't work out that way. So,
and that's a popular one. You've only got, there's only 2 spots left in that pledge level, guys. So,
oh, nice.
If you want to get in on that, you better go now, because that one's not lasting long. All right, now we're getting to the big ones.
Yep, we have a couple big ones that are these are always fun, because from a creative standpoint, I always love kind of sharing that vision and kind of like helping people create themselves. So the ideas from you pledge level, looks like we do actually have one backer on that, which is cool. Work hand in hand with the team, with my team, to bring your very own character to life. So we have a sketch on there of a character that I created named Miss Halo. And we show you what the sketch start off in the name, and I'm coming up with these concepts, and then I send it to my artist, and then my artists refine it. We do some edits, and then the colorist comes in and finishes it off. And so we would help you, along with, it includes the premium bundle, so those fun things up top, you know, the book and the blank cover and all this other stuff. It includes us. Hey, if you want to try doing this, we will help you, and at the end we will mail you a professional colored version of your hero, and then obviously we'd give you the PDF file to do with what you please, because it would be your hero. But that's a cool idea, because some people like to be creative. They don't want to create a whole world, but they want to create, hey, I want to turn my kid into a superhero for his birthday. And so could you help me with this? That's something that we could definitely do. So that's the ideas from you level. And then the Frozen in Wonder level is you or your likeness, or whose ever likeness you'd want to be drawn into an issue. So this was a popular level for Defenders of Eden, where actually there's a couple of guys coming up in issue 3, and how we use them was just fantastic. And our artists are so great at capturing, like, it's undeniable who this character is. It is you. And sometimes somebody will back and say, hey, I want you to draw my spouse into this book. And so you're frozen in the world of Modern Wonders, where in issue 2, you will be in it, and you will have your face in it, and you will be part of the story, which is kind of cool. And then again, that includes, you know, the previous reward levels.
Now, do you, with that one, do you show them anything beforehand, or tell them what their capacity is, or you just send out the issue and you're like, here you go, and they get to discover it?
Well, I mean, technically we would be able to discover it that way. For certain people, I've definitely kind of showed them, hey, because our artists, the way they do it is they find Facebook pictures or pictures that are sent to us, and they do sketches. So what I end up including in that, when this issue 3 of Defenders of Eden comes out, Travis, for example, host of My Wife Is Going to Kill Me, he's in issue 3 of Defenders of Eden. I've shared, there's multiple sketches that aren't even going to be in the book, but just practice sketches of him that our artists kind of wrap their heads around these characters or these people and their faces and everything. And so I'm going to print off a nice picture of all of that artwork of him that is sort of behind the scenes, that's left, that isn't actually in the issue. So
nice.
Yeah. And then the next one is, where are we at? Always a Wonder.
Always.
So Always a Wonder, we only have 5 of those, and looks like 2 of them have been taken. But that one is basically kind of the peak that you can come when it comes to Modern Wonders, is that whether it's a hero or villain, not only will you or your concept become a wonder, but you will receive 3 versions of art, all drawn by different members of the Ideas from Mars team, and your character can live forever in the world of Modern Wonders. So at this level, we have basically me, Dan, David, and CJ, and we will all, it's sort of like the a couple ago Ideas from You level, but this is actually, you're getting 4 different fully colored images, different styles of your character, we will go and walk alongside with you and create that character and tweak that character. And obviously you have final say in it, but then that character could end up, like you see that poster with all those characters, it could end up where, Captain Tulip is, and it could end up where Pete is, in the sense of it will be a hero in this world. And whether we get to do a full issue on that hero and their story, that only time could ever tell. But they will definitely appear in a future issue and will be considered one of the heroes or villains or characters that lives in the Wonderverse, essentially. So
it's kind of a mix of the last two. It's like you get to create your hero, and you'll at least be able to, it'll be in at least one issue, at least like background or whatever.
Yeah. For sure. And you will get a ton of art of that hero. And so that's a cool part of it too, where, you might not like the drawing style of this, of your hero in David's version, but the way that Dan has a throwback style of your character, or CJ kind of adds a little bit of a fun, lighthearted, almost animation style to your character, you might like that stuff more. Or obviously it never happens this way, but you could end up liking my sketchy version of your character. So
you have very nice sketchy versions. I was wearing my sketchy version of your Legends of Grayskull podcast shirt yesterday at our barbecue.
Nice. Nice.
Always got to represent.
Yeah, appreciate it.
So guys, there's plenty of rewards, anything you can think of, and there's plenty of time still to get in on this. What, we got 30 days left?
Yeah. And we've kind of plateaued, obviously,
38.
But again, we get a little bit of that with when you fund so early that it ends up going a little bit cold. So we're going to tweak a couple things to the page. We're going to add a couple banners, and we're going to be sharing, on our platforms and figuring out what we can do to get to a couple of those stretch goals, because some of them are pretty cool. The concept, I have. Yeah. I mean, are we allowed to? Am I allowed to show you concept art or anything?
Yeah, hang on a second. Let me switch back over to us. Let me get off the. All right, yeah, fire away, and probably show off those. What you at some point show off the stretchy guy again, because our viewers couldn't see that earlier.
Okay, so that's Wonder.
Yeah,
saving a little girl swimming.
It's got a very retro, like you said, first appearance of Spider-Man, first appearance of Superman type of vibe to it to me.
Yep, most definitely. And then here's something that not very many people have seen, but I've been playing with. I don't know if you can see that very well, but this is kind of concept work of the trading cards.
Oh, nice.
And then it's going to have the bio on the back and kind of I've always liked the did you know, like the little like trivia at the bottom of the bio card. But yeah, with I can get to them here. With the first drawing ever of Distort, which is he's on that stretch goal thing. He ended up with purple skin. But that's as far as I get with stuff, but you can definitely see a little bit of that early X-Men influence. But yeah, that's where we are with Modern Wonders. And I appreciate you guys a lot. I'll show you one more image that it's at the end of our trailer, but I love it so much that let me see here.
That's the great part about it. You can see the passion going into this. All your crew and you, and you're doing this for the love of it.
Yeah, I can show you guys stuff for days on any of this stuff, but yeah, I just wanted to show you Major Power, who is one of the characters, and kind of show you how he becomes who he becomes in this world. So. These two in the middle are my sketches. Okay. And he's essentially, quality-wise, he's sort of kind of a Superman style, as far as his wonder goes. It's definitely strength and flight. Mm-hmm. And so those are influenced by, I'll tell you, Hercules Disney has a little bit of an influence to this character. And then so I send it over to Dan, and Dan draws kind of his style version of the character, and then David also did his version of the character. And so seeing, the way he looks through a couple different lenses is definitely really, really fun and really cool, and it kind of breathes life into the character as well. So, and then you have this is the evolution. So that's where I started, and then Andrew added his flair to it, and then Victor DeBridge, he's a phenomenal artist, and check him out too online. He has his in-house studio. He designed the new logo for me, and I absolutely love it. So, yeah.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. Questions, comments, concerns? Shawn, is everything okay with you?
I guess my question is just creatively, the amount of stuff that you've managed to do in a short amount of time, like from the time that I've known of like dipping my toe into podcast listening, I have known of Podcasters of the Universe. You started Defenders of Eden around that time too. You don't seem like the kind of person that has an idea and you're like, no, I'm not doing this. It's this or that's that. How do you get yourself not to be that way? You seem to always have like an optimistic approach to how you handle your creativity, I guess is the way I want to put it. And
I think
there's. Go ahead.
No. It's almost that, like, okay, so I'm going to relate it to my job. And the first thing that I did was years ago, I decided to look at it as a part-time job. That yes, it's my hobby, but I need to treat this like, hey, I'm going to put 15, 20 hours into it a week where whether it's talking to people about stories, calling them on the phone and discussing, hey, this is cool. I came up with this idea. What should we do with that? And so I kind of worked it into my life, worked it into my habits where, some people go golfing and some people go buy a new car and drive their car around or on a motorcycle and stuff like that. And when it comes to buying toys, like so I was able to work this into my life in a way that I kept productivity high. And then the second thing, before I get to the third, the second thing is watching our mechanic, where I work at the car lot. And he's been there, for 40 years. And I watched how he learned to fix things. He went to a tech center school. He never went to college or anything. Never got certified. He's been working on cars for 40 years. And how he fixes things, he figures it out. Like So even watching him, realizing that more than, I don't even know what the G.I. Joe quote is, so I'm not going to jokingly say it. But like more than half of the battle is just actually doing it. Like, so I'll be in this room and I want to paint this room, and I've wanted to remodel rooms too before, and I'm legitimately standing here, and I've stood in a room where I'm ripping walls down. I've stood there for like a half an hour, just thinking, just daydreaming. And I'm just like, you have to do it. Just do it, Matt. Just do it. You're capable of doing it. And so when it comes to this stuff too, it's like, it blows my mind that I've done it. But all it was really that, like, hey, you don't want to get sappy and be like, well, you look at your life and what did you accomplish? And, what could you have done differently? And all of that stuff, definitely there rings elements of truth in them. But at the end of the day, it just has more to do with, it's something that I love. It's something that I've kind of found a footing in. And as you find your footing, the next book becomes a little bit easier. And then all of a sudden you have got credibility because this artist is like, yeah, should I work for that guy? And the other artist is like, yeah, he paid me every single time. Like, you know what I mean? You get a little bit of that within the culture and within the community. And so, I mean, at the end of the day, that's mostly, mostly what it was. And then the optimism side of it is, you think some part of it's a show. So I say this jokingly is like, you get so many people that aren't just negative, like they think that being more negative gives more credence to whether it's your intellect or whatnot. I mean, that's just kind of the culture that we live in. Like, well, if I critique this He-Man cartoon, I will be looked at superior because I'm comparing it to the original, and like whether it has to do with any of that stuff. So there's definitely that angle where, I've loved your guys' show because to have that creative element and that critical eye and thought processes, there's nothing unhealthy about it. It's how you choose to use it, I think, that can definitely, kind of say, hey, are you going to be a jerk about it, or are you going to be a thoughtful person that's caring? You know what I mean? And like, there's enough jerks in this world, in my opinion, that there's enough jerks to go around for all of us. So I try to stay on the side of, being critical, but also being kind in the sense of like, I don't want to just poop on something because I don't like it type of angle. Because I just feel like it's a low hanging fruit angle to view things. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So, and again, I'm not saying everything's perfect and anything in these books are perfect, but you can find faults in everything, and that's if you can find fault in anything, what does that really prove? That just proves something that we already know. You know what I mean? So but yeah, I recommend to everybody. I'm like, hey, do you want to? And that's where visionary wise, I mean, you guys have seen, and you're wearing the Armies of Ashmore shirt. Like, I literally just got the notification that my prototype action figure is coming in the mail, and yes, I'm putting money towards some of this stuff, but I'm a visionary. If Matt has a podcast he wants to do, or if Shawn has a script he wants to do for a TV show, if you guys were to say to me, hey, what do you think about? I will feed into you as much as possible. Some of it will hit rock, some of it will hit soil, and roll off the shoulder, and everybody. So that's just where my head's at. If you want to open up a golf course and you need a logo, I like that stuff, so I think that how I view things, it doesn't just resonate in this superhero or this fantasy world. It just resonates as me wanting to breathe vision into other people's ideas, because the greatest feeling I could ever have in the world is the hair standing up on my arm and being like, that's it. Yeah. That's the idea. That makes sense. This fits right there. And until people get that feeling, it's hard to describe. But whether it's, again, with a business or a job or a comic book, or even you built something, as soon as something clicks where you're like, boom, you're in that moment, it's like there's nothing better. So that's why I love the vision side of things. So
yeah,
was that Matthew Dooch long-winded enough, or
not? You're almost there. Almost there. No, but you're right. I mean, that hits home, and Shawn and I had that too. Remember when we were starting this show, we kept waiting. We kept saying, well, we're going to do this first. We'll do that first. We need this first. We need that. And finally one day, I think I just messaged Shawn, and I'm like, dude, let's just do it. Like, we'll figure it out along the way. Like, because that's what it turned into. It's like, well, we're going to wait for this. Then we're going to wait for that. Then we're going to wait for this. And it was the same thing. We were just sitting there and we were talking a lot and discussing, but we weren't getting anything out there. And so that's why we had the early episodes with audio issues and this and that. But we were doing it. And, and now we're to the point here where it's just like, basically we can fire up the computer and get on, and, just like anything else, it keeps going and going. So,
you got to go for it. You might as well. And life's too short.
Absolutely. Real quick here. I know we're on Modern Wonders today, but Defenders of Eden.
Yes.
What can we expect? How soon? How amazing? You doing Kickstarter? You just go into press? What? Where's my
I'm
issue 3?
I'm hoping September. That's kind of my. That's what we're in the background's working on. So he's sending me pages. I don't know if I've shared them with you, but I've tried to share them with a couple people. But it's weird being on the back side of a project and not being able to be on the front side. I mean, these guys and we collect toys, so I'm like, there's a guy literally that knows what every single toy line looks like for the next, or the waves of the new 2 toys coming out.
Right.
The new the Master Toy line. But like they're not allowed to say anything. It's like you feel like that in some cases where it's like, I want to show you guys everything. I just can't yet. I just promise it's coming. So I'd say September is kind of what we're aiming for as far as issue 3 goes. And then issue 4 is going to be the final chapter in this arc. So issue 4 is going to be the end of the trade. And obviously it'll be done beforehand, but it was originally pre-COVID. It was supposed to be this PowerCon where we were able to sell the full trade. But again, everything kind of slowed down. So.
And those will be Kickstarters too, or do you think there'll ever be a point where Idea from Mars is just printing and
I would love to meet a publisher that would want to do that. To be honest with you, I have no desire personally to publish these books. I would love for that. It's just at this point with Kickstarter, especially, it's just such an awesome platform that they have where, you have returning fans, you have your email list and database of everything, and you're able to shoot out and stuff. It's an awesome I guess from what I've read, Kickstarter and Indiegogo are the top 2 publishers of comic books, the past couple of years because of how many books they actually do produce on a technical level. So I would love to be able to, I'm setting up right now. You can go there, ideasfrommars.com. And I would love to be able to, I'm still figuring out because I'm not a tech guy. So I would love to be able to sell these books online right now. If I knew how to do that, if you know somebody that wants to set it up for me, I would gladly drop them in the mail. But I would love to just go direct to consumer. But I just, as far as time, energy, and effort, I do work, 50 hours a week, and so it's definitely a little bit more time consuming than I'd like it to be. But yeah,
understood. All right, Shawn, you got anything else for Mr. Rodriguez?
I'm always impressed. Like I'm like the other end of the spectrum from where Matt is. I am the guy that has tons of ideas, and I like. We've talked about just do it. I have always been the guy that I've always found a way to say to myself, I can't. And so being a friend of Matt's, and both Matt's actually, because, Matthew Duch is just like, let's just do this podcast. And now all of a sudden there's people out there on YouTube going, hey, it's a new episode of you guys. This makes my day. And I'm like, I made somebody's day. Amazing. And, Matt and with Matthew Rodriguez, it's like, I'm holding 2 issues of Defenders of Eden, and he did that. That's amazing, So, it is impressive to me that he's been able to do this in the amount of time and the amount of ideas he keeps having. He seems like he's a never-ending well of these ideas and the different influences. And the thing I gotta say though is it is fun to see. Yes, he said, like he said, there is no new idea, but it's the way you spin the idea. And when you look at some of the things he's done, like Defenders of Eden, I missed the Kickstarter on that, but when he did the second issue Kickstarter, boom, I got on board with that. And the next thing I know, I'm like, I see the love, I see the influence, and I really think that's great. And with Modern Wonders, I think that's great as well, because I've always liked X-Men, and on top of that, I like this idea of it's not X-Men either. So you get to check that out and see what the differences is. So yeah, huge kudos basically, because I'm always impressed.
I really appreciate it. So Tila, She's got arm muscles now, huh?
We're gonna go down that rabbit hole.
Did you guys cover that stuff last?
We basically did you can't say what that is based on one image. Yes, she has arm muscles. I got into it actually. I'll admit this right here. There was a girl who did a clickbait video in the last week or so, and she's like a millennial YouTuber, and she just went off for about 10 to 20 minutes about this image. And she literally had to show her Google search for Andra because I don't think she knew who Andra was, but when she showed it, she's like, look what they did to Andra. She's a beloved fan-loved character. And I wrote her back, I'm like, you Googled her, and I bet you any money most fans have Googled her because they don't. So, it is what it is on these levels. But yeah, it's exhausting. I can't wait for the premiere just so that maybe a lot of these people having these problems either will be over, or if they are really present, then we can address them and we can see what actually is the point of them then.
I like the one, and I don't remember if it might have been the same girl. No, I think it was an article I read. It wasn't the video. And it was talking about how the new revelation was woke, and the article referenced tweets by random Twitter users.
Yeah.
Like, that was their big, like, look, it's woke because, S. Boyd 375 said, oh no, it's woke. And it's like...
The funny thing is that those types of articles are written so much where, like, if you just start scrolling and you're like, wait a minute, there's literally no journalism at all when it comes to this. So that's where you have to be careful, because I'm all about discussing anything to do with these shows. But as soon as it turns into so why do you think that? And it's like, well, I was told to think that. It's like, okay, no. That's not how this conversation is going to happen. It's like, until, like Shawn says, we see any sort of evidence of anything with any of this stuff. It's like, I think everything I've seen from Revelation so far, I know I wasn't on the last episode, but I think it looks fantastic. Some minor little, like, hey, why is this shaped that way type of thing with certain helmets and different things like that. But overall, you can tell this is He-Man, and you could tell that they're honoring the source material, updating the animation, and they giving me Moss Man first wave toys.
I think that was probably number one on the list. First off, though, is the fact Moss Man is now a top tier guy in this. So
do you think he's going to have the pine scent?
The toy?
Yeah. No,
I don't think they will.
No.
In the show, I hope he does. I hope they mention it.
That's.
It would be something. I mean, I could see Kevin Smith doing something like that, like having a line.
While Mechaneck and Manny Faces are out back at the palace, passing a joint between them, they'll be like, "Hey, you smell pine sol? Oh no, it's Moss Man. Oh, what's up?"
Or it goes like, I wasn't even supposed to be here today.
And then that guy.
Sorry, you go. You're up.
No, you go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, because I missed your rival podcast, the Podcasters of the Universe. They wanted me on for their episode where they discussed the new 2 cartoons. And I actually missed it because I was just way too tired to drive up to them. And so I've been like just itching to just even talk about these 2 cartoons. So I apologize if you guys have gone over this stuff before, but I've just been itching to discuss the new 2 toy lines. So
now, I will put a warning out there, though. Podcasters of the Universe. I told you, if you're going to take one of my hosts, you need to come to me first. And I did not receive a call, nor did my people receive a call. That's strike 1, you guys. No more shenanigans. No backdoor deals here. You want Matt? Go through me. All right.
Our producers are really, really stringent about that.
Mm-hmm.
Really, they're locking down, especially the closer we get to Revelation. Apparently.
Well, yeah. I mean, we got to protect the integrity of Legends of Grayskull first. I mean, that's first.
Oh boy.
No, I agree. I like everything I'm seeing out of the cartoons. I like what I'm hearing. I like the lead-in comic. I mean, it's just... It almost feels too good to be true. And maybe that's the problem. Maybe all these people are so pessimistic, and I am a lot too, that we're on the back of our heads, we're going like, it can't be this good. We've been Masters fans too long. There's always something, you know.
Well, and even the images of that new CGI, they showed a few of the toys. And for me, if you legitimately put kids today and what they're used to seeing on TV in front of a TV, and you wanted to show them a Masters of the Universe cartoon, like that's what it would look like. It just would. And again, whether you don't like the fully tech angle of things or you don't like the animation style, there's no reason why. And the thing is too with Revelations, it lines up. Like they're doing, the animation house did Castlevania, and then also Blood of Zeus, which I very much enjoyed. It's going to look like He-Man, but it's going to be in this animation style. So it makes no sense for this other one not to be the same way. And so for He-Man to be smiling and like kid friendly looking, like, like that toy, oh geez, kids are going to love those toys. I think, but yeah, so this whole, again, it just kind of proves that, like we jokingly said earlier, that like to find fault in anything, legitimately, Mattel is giving us an Origins toy line that's articulated versions of what we grew up with. Now we can discuss quality or blah, 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 and all that stuff later. Articulated Origins, show continuing from our childhood show, which is Revelations, and a CGI show from a new, for a new generation, and 3 toy lines. Yet people are complaining. Yet people are complaining. So it's like what? So that in itself proves that anyone having issues with anything is going to have issues with anything. So there is going to be that echo chamber of voices that just needs to be tuned out, in my opinion.
I think personally, at least, the way that I viewed it is, if you have a problem with it, you have a sense of, this is mine and it's owed to me that it needs to be this way. And I don't necessarily, like, I actually had a really long talk with my mom the other day about the Star Wars trilogies, because I'm like, fans feel they were owed this and this and this, but realize Disney is the one that's the corporate entity that's controlling this brand. And I've said it on the show multiple times, but it's like, this is Mattel doing what they're doing. You aren't owed anything. And I'm sorry, that's just how it works. If you don't like it, you don't have to buy it. It's that simple. You are making your statement by not doing it then. Fine. But for the people who want to go, hey, this is something else, because Lord knows what fandom other than Thundercats probably has it worse than Masters when it comes to new things. And the idea on top of that something new can be embraced and enjoyed by other people, because we're so microscopic about Filmation is the know-all end-all. And it's like, even as a kid, that was never my know-all end-all. So I'm one of those people that if you're moving on from that, I'm completely cool, because I liked it, but I can do something different as well. And that isn't going to ruin it for me. And the only way you're going to ruin it for me is if at the end of the day, you don't say the man is He-Man, that's the lead of the show. There's no Power Sword, there's no Grayskull, and there's no Skeletor. If you take that stuff away, it's not going to feel right to me. But if you keep the essence of those things and you're saying, but we can make this a new flavor and it's a new thing, or a rebooting of something, I'm interested to go, well, how did you keep what I love? And if you didn't keep that, what did you do that maybe I'll love now? And it's that thing then to me, but it doesn't mean I'll hate it.
I agree, and I know we were just talking about this in the past few days, we're going to get to this, but the only way I'm going to be upset is if Mattel goes the route they did in the 90s where they just did nothing with the property. Because at least if you're doing something, there's a chance I'm going to get something I like.
Exactly.
It's that you have a 0% chance of winning the lottery if you don't buy a ticket. So if there's, and that's unfortunately where I think a lot of people want. They're like, well, if they're not going to do it the way I want it, don't do anything with it. And it's like, well, who wins there then? So people who potentially could enjoy it get nothing. You still get nothing you like. But to be frank, it doesn't seem like there's much you like. I mean, if you can't be happy with 2 out of 3 toy lines being aimed at you, because I don't care what they say, Origins is aimed at us guys that grew up with the 80s line. Yeah, kids that get it are enjoying it, but it is not marketed to them, and it's being ever more evident with every wave that comes out as they're tweaking things and changing things. They are focused on the adult collector with Origins. They're focused on the adult collector with Masterverse. If you can't then let them try to get some kids interested, I mean, that's just not a good stance in my opinion.
Well, and like you said, when Shawn was saying about it being ruined, the only way for me, it was exactly that. Like, the only way for them to ruin He-Man for me is for them to shut the door on all of the property and say, we're done with it.
Right.
That would literally be the only way, because we still get the Castle Grayskull. I got my Eternia Minis packaging of the Castle Grayskull. We still get He-Man in our lives in a new capacity in any sort of way. So even if I don't like the CGI cartoon, walking down the toy aisle and seeing those hang on a peg and seeing some kid buy one, that's going to make me happy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, not even, and that's not even, we're saying 3 toy lines. Really, there's 5 out there right now, because then you've got the minis and you've got the mega constructs. It's like, if you can sit here and look at all that and go, none of this makes me happy. I mean, that's your opinion, but to me, maybe you're trying a little too hard to be unhappy. I mean, if you can't find something fun in all of that, I don't know. That's just my opinion. Because I think they're doing some great stuff. Not counting Masterverse or CGI, because that's not out yet. Out of the Origins, the minis, the mega constructs, what do you guys look forward to the most? Or let's throw the Hot Wheels in there too. Why not? What's the one thing, like, if you guys go to a store right now and you're like, man, I hope I see this?
My wife adores the minis.
Yeah, that's a good
The minis are so much fun. They take up less space.
Yeah,
but the same thing with the mega constructs too. It's like, I don't have the castle, but building these things and having an entire sort of collection, having a whole collection of mega constructs sit on a like 2 foot by 2 foot area, and you have this whole entire world right there. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, for me, it's definitely the mega constructs. They're just the character selection, the vehicles, and the posability on these little guys is amazing. They have incredible joints, really well done. And like you said,
ankles move.
Yes. Every Battle Cat's ankles move except for one. So, yeah, for me, it's the mega constructs. That's the only piece I'm missing right now, too, is the castle. So, but yeah, everything, they are just great. But you know what's real fun, actually, is posing them around Classics Castle Grayskull, because it looks massive. I mean, it looks like Filmation scale drawbridge there.
That's actually a pretty cool idea. How about you, Shawn?
I'm not into Origins like everyone else, but I actually do enjoy going to the store and seeing the Origins, especially if it's not just He-Man or Skeletor, because there is that initial jump of joy in my heart when I see them, because in the last 10, 15 years, that is the one line that I kept going, it's missing on the toy shelves. Yeah, I could find Transformers, I could find Ninja Turtles, always find Star Wars, but the other brand from when I was a kid that was huge was always He-Man. And, you know, it's like, where are they? You know, and getting to see the different characters that they're churning out with each wave is kind of fun too. It still hasn't won me over, but it's still fun to see that. And then I am a newly converted Mega Constructs guy too. I was actually trying to put together the Wind Raider and found out that I have pieces missing, so I guess I gotta get in touch with those guys.
Yeah.
But no, I love. I've said it before. The brand manager of that line should jump into the Origins line, because that line, that guy, whoever that person is, they seem to get it even more than the Origins people in some ways, because there is the way they think of it, and and the different play sets that they're providing, the different vehicles they're providing. There is, I can see where it's going and it makes sense. Versus like with Origins, there is that feeling of Scareglow's out already, but then there's and it's almost like this leapfrog game that they're doing in how they release certain characters, and you're waiting for some that maybe should have been released earlier. I am still a little lost on their mentality with that line, but Mega Constructs, it's fun. My son and I tried to put together the Wind Raider until we found out the parts were missing. And at that point, he goes, I want to go play with something else. Fine, because then I'm like, I got to email people, I guess. But it's fun.
I should show you. There's a picture online. I downloaded it because I wanted to try to do it. But I guess somebody took the Wind Raider and made it into that boat and had the wings be the sails of a boat. And it looks really cool. It looks really cool.
Awesome.
They did kind of a boat version of the Wind Raider.
Nice.
I have to,
it's like a pontoon boat then, or whatever.
Yeah,
that'd be cool.
Essentially. Yeah.
No, they're great, and they incorporate all the action features. And one of the funnest things, more fun. I don't know if you guys saw it, but they just randomly popped out another of those Skeletor heads on the shelf that comes with Zodak and the Scuba Tack gear.
Really?
Yeah, that just popped up out of nowhere a couple days ago. Skelly Vader actually was the first one to post. He found one in his local Walmart.
Okay, so how many are there then? How many total are there then?
So there'll be 4 now, because there was the 3.
There was Fisto
with the Cliff Climber, He-Man with the Jet Sled, and Trapjaw with the Grayskull cannon. And now there's a refresh case that has Zodak with the Scuba Tack with a burgundy-colored Skeletor hood.
Huh.
So, and that just thought, like, who does that anymore? For that just to, like, be on store shelves without leaked photos or review, you know, all this lead up. Like, I love that. Just pump them out there. Exactly. Like you said, Mega Constructs, that team gets it. That team.
Yeah.
I'd love to know more. We gotta find out about those guys. We gotta get them on the show. Mega Constructs guys. I know you're listening out there. Drop us an email. We'll work something out.
No, I get a kick out of them. Like I didn't have too many of them at first. I got a Tila in a trade. There was somebody that I was trading with, and he's like, here's something for your daughter if she likes these little figures. That was the first one I ever got, and I was like, I'm impressed. I wasn't expecting to get into that line, and then I'm not a big Lego guy even to begin with, so it's like I'm more interested in collecting the figures for it because they're fun to just put on my desk or whatever.
Yeah.
And like you said, the amount of articulation is amazing for how tiny those things are. And I like, yes, Battle Cat does have the ankle articulation, and I will never ever let Origins hear the end of that one because I'm like, really? Out of everything you took, we can't afford that. But somehow a little tiny figure you can afford that with. Okay. So.
Gotta love it. All right, on that note, our producer yelling at me because we haven't taken a commercial break in a while. Let's go to commercial. We'll be right back. Stay tuned, guys.
Legends of Grayskull will be back right after these messages.
where the Wonder Genome gives ordinary people like you extraordinary abilities. Now, let's catch up with two of our heroes, Long Range and his intrepid sidekick, Cloud Kid, on the hunt for the villainous Manic.
Man.
Hey, this is Matthew Rodriguez. Thanks so much for checking out Modern Wonders live on Kickstarter right now. I've always had the idea to start a superhero universe, and finally it happens. So thanks for checking this out, and I hope you get to at least check out the Kickstarter, maybe share it, and if you like it, do a pledge and get the book and learn a little bit more. Thanks, everyone.
And now, back to Legends of Grayskull.
Welcome back, everybody. We're still here in episode 66 of Legends of Grayskull. We're here with Shawn Scavarna and Matthew Rodriguez. You know, something just occurred to me, Shawn.
What was
just
that?
in episode 65, we had the monumental occasion of our first 3-time guest host with
That's
Yuka
true.
being on.
Yuka. He's a great guy.
Now, with today, Matt Rodriguez has once again tied it up to where now there are 2 3-time guest hosts.
Uh-huh.
So
That is true.
just throwing it out there, Matt. Yuka, I mean, it's neck and neck
Yuka.
here.
Yeah, Yuka, that guy is one of the smartest I have ever met when it comes to Masters.
Yeah.
I mean, he is a knowledgeable kid, and a great guy, and a talented artist. Actually, he doesn't really flex the artist side of his muscles, but he definitely is a great guy. So that's awesome to be mentioned in the same breath of his.
Yep.
I will gladly accept.
Yeah, so it's Matt and Yuka tied there. Then it's got to be Danielle next, and that's probably about it for multiple guest hosts, right? And everybody else just, you know,
Unless
like Potu uses us and loses us. So,
well, technically they were on the show twice, but we don't talk about the first
only
time.
if it goes to air. Only if it goes to air. Nothing else counts.
So that doesn't count. That doesn't count. But yeah.
So.
No, what killed me, and I forgot to bring this up last episode. I didn't want to bring it up actually with Yuka on, but I wanted to actually
talk
mention.
Trash about him now?
No, I'm not going to talk trash about Yuka.
Oh, okay.
But
just kidding.
Here's
Yuka.
the thing:
we love you.
How often does he reveal his face to those of us down here, compared to him up there? So, no, I'm just kidding, Yuka. I'm just kidding. But when he was talking about the CGI cartoon and the smiley face and all that, we went into that a little bit.
Right.
The more I thought about it, I'm like, I think the CGI He-Man is Yuka. I really do. He looks a lot like Yuka, especially since we saw him and we got all the profile and all that stuff. I'm just like, dude, if they didn't model him after Yuka, he should sue somebody at this point because it looks really close. Yeah. I think that's part of why I'm embracing that show, because it's like, if they got him as their model of He-Man, how am I supposed to say that's wrong? Right. I mean, geez, the guy is like, he is the fountain of information for so many people, both new and old, that it only makes sense. Give the guy his due. You know what I mean?
Go. Yuka's
James Etok can then be Man at Arms, and that'll work. You got the buddy system there.
I don't know. Etok's got that righteous beard. I think he'd be more of a Fisto.
Yeah, all right, Fisto.
There we go. Look at that. We got Dolph Lundgren as King Grayskull. We got Yuka as He-Man.
Yuka's He-Man.
We got Etok as Fisto. I'm liking it. I put Shawn as Ram Man. I don't know why. He's got that Ram Man.
I would never know who the heck could be in Masters. There's definitely superheroes that I pointed at and go, that'd be what I would do. Yeah. I think, Ram Man would probably be me because I'd be the one yelling Shabooty and hoping not to die in the dark.
Yeah, maybe that's why I go there with you. Rodriguez, I gotta go Mechanic.
I could see that too.
Look at that right there. Look at he's already doing it. Nice. Hey, Sony. Right here. Logpod85@gmail.com. We got you covered.
I've always had a soft spot for him because I feel like he's definitely underrated.
Yes.
I feel like he is underrated.
True. Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah, he could be used really, really nicely. All right. So, wrapping up the show here, Matt had a little bit of fanfic he wanted to talk about. Take us away. It's been all Matt's show. I'm loving it.
Fanfic. Okay, what are we talking? Oh, I know what we're talking about.
I hope so. It was your idea.
It was my idea.
I'm just gonna sit back and watch you two spar like this. This is fun.
No, so essentially, what we talked about with just again the heart of He-Man and what it is and what it means. Obviously, there's been a lot of exploration of new characters and just exploring the world more, where it's the masters of the universe, where there's this kind of team. And so the other day when I believe I texted both of you guys, I just said, hey, I'm just kind of thinking about like a vision of what could you make the masters of the universe, whether it be a movie or a story, where like everyone was who they are because of the noticeable qualities, but it wasn't exactly how we've seen it represented. So for instance, the easiest one to do would say, hey, they're on this plane, there's a bunch of these soldiers, and there's a guy flying the plane, and he's got his goggles on, he's got a gray beard, he's kind of a savvy vet, and he's got this kind of maroonish red, thing around his neck, and the helmet, and that's Stratos, and he's the pilot, and so to have each character be more of kind of a human version of them, how would they represent? Because again, you'd have very distinct things about them that like, oh, well, that's Buzz-Off, or that's Mechanic, or that, would Mechanic and Triclops be the scouts? Would they be the guys with the binoculars,
Absolutely.
Working with the snipers, and that type of stuff. And we started kind of just bouncing those thoughts around, and the idea of it ended up being pretty cool in the sense of we talk about Keldor being who he was. And so this is where I started the story for Matt, and he kind of took it and ran with it, and it was kind of fun. And I think Shawn just sat back and plugged in every once in a while, but
I read through it actually, and I was like, well, you guys are on a whole different level. I'm just gonna sit, like I said, I'll sit back and watch you guys go for it. It's fine.
I liked as you were going with it, I was envisioning more of just a standard, but more of an earthly military movie, but with Master's character, a little more grounded in reality, a little less flights of fancy, and it was really tickling the creative side of me. So it was a lot of fun.
And so you have this ship, and they're on this thing, and we ended up with, I think it was you got Man-at-Arms, Duncan, Randor, Captain Randor. You got Stratos on there; he's flying the plane. You got Keldor, you got Cronus, and you have Triclops. Pre-Triclops,
Biff,
and Biff.
Yep. Biff.
Man, there's just something about that character that my wife absolutely adores.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've always been a Beastman fan. Like we said on that thing, I definitely lean more towards. I like the idea of if he was transformed into that. I like the idea of him communicating with animals and saying, "Hey, will you help me?"
Right.
But the whole him controlling every animal, I've never been a huge fan of that, just because, again, setting up that thought process. And if you're going to set up this world and this vision, let's follow through in every aspect. And that's one of the aspects that I don't really think they've ever really followed through, only when necessary, you know?
Well, the funny thing is, growing up, I never really took controlling as like mind control. I always took it as, like you said, like he's good with animals. Like either they're afraid of him or they want to follow him, but either way it's the same thing. Like you said, I've always looked at it as he can communicate with them and he can usually get them to do what he wants them to do.
Right.
But if he was actually like mind controlling, like that's a heck of a power to be able to take any animal.
I'm pretty sure in Filmation he would do this and then it'd like send out the circles. Like,
right.
I'm pretty sure that's how they did it in Filmation. And
yeah, I always took it as he's talking to them. Like that's how they, because he's not, instead of having him sit there and go like, you know. But yeah,
that sounds familiar.
Subtitles to be added in later by Steve.
Blah 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 blah. Firefighter. Blah 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 blah. Podcast host. Blah 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 blah.
There you go.
Let's see if Steve's listening this week. I'll get a message.
I doubt it.
But yeah, so I'm in agreement. It's more he communicates with them than controls them. Because if you can control any animal you want, just send them all at once, all the time. Like, why are you even playing around?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then I think we said there were a bunch of grunts too.
Yep.
Who may or may not turn out to be worthwhile later.
Right, exactly. So you kind of have this a whole group kind of going in, and whether they go through a portal or they go somewhere, essentially this is the team that's sent to figure out what is this evil, and the evil ends up being Hordak and just this new magic that, you know, we're not familiar with. So the team gets separated. I believe that's what happens. First of all, Beastman gets lost. He's right. Biff. He's just a normal guy. Again, I don't know what the last name is. Is it Strowman? Braun Strowman, the wrestler
that's
figure?
The wrestler. Yeah.
The wrestler. Whenever I picture that beard and that character, I'm just like, that's Biff Beastman. Like that's kind of I think that it would be kind of a cool origin story for him to be that. Anyways, so you have that character. He falls. Let's say he falls off the plane. He gets lost in the woods. You know, he's doing his own thing. His own thing is he gets bit and he transforms.
Right.
So he comes back later. So let's say he transforms. Then you have your scouts and your team. And essentially what happens is that you have your Captain Randor, who's, hey, this evil, we got to kill it. We got to destroy it. It's too powerful. It's this magic. It's too unknown. Let's squash it. And then you get his sidekick, or the second in command, which is a Keldor character. We don't really need to know if it's brothers or whatever, but Keldor definitely has the whole Lord of the Rings, like, if we can control it, then like, let's discover, like, let's figure this out first. Let's not. So there's definitely a different theory in how we handle this situation between those two guys, for sure.
Do you like the idea, and it just came to me now, is it just Keldor that's saying if we can control it, or does he have some extra orders that maybe Randor didn't get?
Well, if you're saying if there's another power to be that's saying, hey, let's
maybe they knew Randor wouldn't follow through with like, they know Randor, he's just going to try and destroy it. So then they talk to Keldor and they're like, well, hey, if you can bring some of it back for us, or you know what I mean?
That political element of it, where you have whether it's the council or a group of people that want to know a little bit more, that are, again, looking out for themselves in a power sense.
Right.
For sure. That could be an element of it.
Could be maybe pull a page out of Eternity War and have King Hiss has actually infiltrated the council. And he's, given some orders to Keldor, knowing what Keldor's going to. He knows he's going to the Horde. So he gave him some secret orders, because I think that plays into Keldor's vanity and everything. Like, he's like, yeah, I'm below Randor, but I got these special orders. Like, they came just to me for this. You know?
Right.
That would play.
I like that.
That would play right into his mindset of, he's really the best. And so when they get to this point, that's when Keldor's like, look, this mission isn't what you think it is. Like, I've got special orders that they didn't even trust you with.
Right.
And that's a little rift.
Yeah, and even when it comes down to that, is that you have, so from his standpoint, then if you go that route, is Hiss is already planning on overthrowing Eternia.
Oh, absolutely.
And so the last thing Hiss wants is another evil faction that would ruin his plans.
Right.
So he needs to figure this out. And if there's a way that he can gain access to or control any of it, that he definitely would be a fan of sending Keldor and saying, hey, you guys are going in to do this, but wink, you know what I need you to do.
Right.
Which is to do some reconnaissance for me. And so, yeah, you have them. So they're going into, let's say, the fright zone type of area. And you got there's basically a disconnect what happens. And I think that there's definitely, I don't know what the exact situation is, but we definitely have some key moments where you get the Cronus, Keldor, and Triclops going right. And you get
not Triclops, remember?
Oh, yeah. No, you are correct. So Triclops with them, you get a couple grunts that go with them.
Right. Triclops sides with Rand. They have this big argument. Who's going for what? I'm thinking Randor. I think at this point, maybe they've already engaged the Horde at one point, and Randor realizes that like, we're not going to win this. These guys are tough. There's a ton of them. And so at that point, Randor's like, we just need to cut our losses and try and get out of here. We need to get get a signal flare, like, get the plane, let's go home. We're not ready for this.
These Horde troopers, this technology, we can't handle this. It's a done mission. We've gone as far as we can. We're going to return with what we know. And Keldor's like, no, we need to continue.
I gotta get this. Whatever. Hiss told him to get something, or maybe a power source that the Horde uses. There's something that Keldor's looking for in the fright zone. I think that's the key. And so he's like, no, we need to press on. And the two factions just splinter. But I think Triclops, he is a stand-up guy. He's a good member of the Guard. He sides with Randor. He said no.
And this even plays into him being kind of that heroic buck where, like, people early on, whether he was supposed to be a hero or a villain. And so then a little bit of a skirmish takes place and Triclops gets injured.
Yep.
And then Duncan says, we will be back for, puts him off to the side. They kind of have him hidden. He's okay, but he's really hurt. They've got to get the med kit, all this other stuff. And so he decides that, hey, we have to, save him. And Triclops, he, learned under Duncan, he's probably going to be the next, realistically at that point, he's going to be the next man at arms because he's technology wise, he understands it. He's his brightest student. And so he's there. And then when they get back to the ship, Randor pulls an audible and is like, we're going. Right. Mech neck's hurt. His neck's broke.
Right.
But we left. And Duncan's like, hey, I'm a man of my honor. I'm a man of honor. Duncan says, I told him we'd be back for him.
Yeah. I can imagine just Horde troopers just surrounding the ship. Like, they put on the radars and they're just everywhere and they're closing in.
Rados is saying we've got to go. Yeah. Maybe Buzz-Off is there. Buzz-Off is on top of the ship, like trying to hold guys from getting into the ship.
Right.
And Randor says, no, we're leaving. I'm making a call. And at that point, Duncan is super upset. And he decides, and he has to listen. And so there's that moment where Duncan realizes that his rank in this situation, he's outranked. he has to, as a soldier, go with him.
Right.
And he realizes that I guess it wasn't intentionally, but he unintentionally, lied to, one of his soldiers.
I can just picture Randor goes, Duncan, I ordered you to get in the ship.
Right.
And Duncan
is the type of character.
No words, or even just like a yes, Captain, but just a look on his face is like,
you see it that he realizes that the phrase he said to Triclops, he shouldn't have said. Like, he realizes it was a promise he didn't know he could keep, and it was sort of a passionate promise in the middle of a battle.
Yeah.
And now he feels like he betrayed him, which plays up obviously later on.
And Shawn, you and I had this conversation before in a previous episode. Duncan remembers every soldier he has ever let down, left behind, every loss on that battlefield. He remembers all their names, what they like. Like, he's not. Yeah, he's the man at arms, but by God, every one of those guys under his command means something to him. And so he keeps moving forward, but it wears on him.
Well, just jumping into the sandbox here. I mean, the thing that I like about that is if Triclops was supposed to be the next guy, he'd know him like a son. And it's like, he already, like, I guess Tila might be in the picture outside of the story, but it's the whole idea of, him looking at Randor, and he before he even says, yes, Captain, or something, it could be almost like, you can't make me leave and then he stops himself almost. And then he does the yes, Captain. And he just walks up because he knows he can't fight it, but it's like, you're forcing me to leave my son on the battlefield.
So that's that's the two levels that happen. Is the first level where he's just like, Duncan's trying to reason with him, like, from a battle standpoint, like, no, like, there is this chance that we can go get him. I'll be right back. I'll take Buzz off with me. Ram Man will protect us, blah, blah, blah. And you have that kind of that reasoning side of it. And then as he's saying it, he obviously knows, like, he's in his head, he knows it's like a 5% chance.
Right.
And then Randor shuts that down. And then the next trigger is like him being like, all of a sudden a little bit of an emotional uprising in that, where he's like, but I told him blah, 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 blah. And like, even Randor saying, but you shouldn't have told him that, like that type of thing. Like, you should know better. You don't make promises like maybe not those phrases, but like, you should have known that. And then all of a sudden it clicks in his head, and he just looks down and he's just searching for words and he can't find any. And Randor says, I order you to get on this ship. And like, Duncan has never disobeyed an order, like, type of thing. Like, it's just not in his character. Yeah. But this is the first time it's ever been an order that he wanted to disobey.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So Shawn, you're with us so far. Everything okay for you?
I'm picking. I'm viewing it almost like as Call of Duty Eternia,
right?
Because we're not using them as the traditional, but it's almost like here's a warfare sequence using these characters, and it makes.
Of course, Ram Man might have like a battering ram sort of thing, and he might be more of a husky guy,
Yeah, he's a bigger guy. He's got extra padding. He's got his full jacket and everything else. He's. Yeah,
it was like a quick reference to say it that way. Like, I'm not picturing quite exactly Call of Duty, obviously, but it's like, this is the way in my head I'm processing it like that, and I'm like, this is working for me. So,
but again, the colorization and sort of the character side of it, to kind of be like, like any Masters fan would watch watch this animated 1 hour show and be like, that's totally He-Man, and like it's undeniable, even if it was all different names and all different stuff, you'd watch it and be like, no, that's him, that's him, that's him, that's him. And then so they get on the ship, and like Stratos is like an old vet. Like, Stratos is like, bro, I've lost other pilots. Like, hey, see ya. Like, so you get 3 perspectives from the ground. They lift off and fly away, whether it's through the portal or whatever. And like, maybe that's what they need to figure out. Like, there's this portal, and our our Eternia doesn't, like, this is the first time portals have ever happened or opened. So we need to figure this out. So they're the sent in to figure this out. They want to figure out how to shut it. Keldor wants to figure out how to control it, or something along those lines. So they're lifting up. So as they're lifting up, we see three perspectives. We see this guy that's transformed into this sort of beast character, sort of, again, like from the movie, looking up, and he's in the jungle. We see this other crew, which is Keldor and Cronus and a couple bad guys. We see them looking up in their part where they're at. And then the third one is Triclops, broken, and his vision is jacked up.
Yeah, something happened to his
almost like foggy. He can see through the wrapping or the bandage. He can see the shape of the ship, and he realizes what just happened.
Right.
And so that's where, when they decided who was going left and who was going right, he sort of unintentionally or intentionally, he's like, I chose the wrong way. Like, that's when he kind of decides he chose the wrong way. And now he's going to side with Keldor on, you know, future missions or whatnot or whatever. So then where do we go from there? Then I'm trying to remember.
Well, then you got Keldor. It was basically everyone at this point just gets messed up. Keldor tries to engage with the Horde to try and get this MacGuffin he's after, and you know, it does not go well for anybody. They find Triclops and kind of recruit him, but he's already banged up. Cronus just gets beat up, you know, loses an arm, and you know, he gets all messed up. And then Keldor ends up, and some of the grunts they're with, they get left for dead. And basically it gets down to just Keldor, Cronus, and Triclops at that point.
So they retreat.
They retreat into the swamp. They find this random swamp, and they find this hut.
They find a woman.
A woman.
Yes.
Who has turned.
And they do not find what's her name? Madam Mim. You guys know the Sword in the Stone?
Yeah. Oh god.
so picture that, except it's a slender, yellow-skinned.
Yep. From living
Eternian humanoid character named Evelyn, and she's a witch that lives in these woods. And so she's wherever they're at, if it's a portal or whatnot, she resides there, and she is at one with this magic. So Keldor definitely takes a liking to her, because again, she's introducing him to elements that maybe the only pieces of these elements he has seen was King Hiss. Like, you know how Anakin's with the senator, and like there's just this feeling around him, and like Anakin likes that feeling, and it's something that's foreign to him, but it's this magical feeling, and that's how Keldor feels with King Hiss. And so when he feels that near Evelyn, he's like, oh, there's this new thing. I really like it. I want to be part of it. And so they take a little bit of time and heal up through, you know, remedy and magic with her. And again, Beastman is doing what he does.
You know, and maybe after you know, I'd say Cronus is probably the worst off, but she's keeping him alive. And then once Triclops heals up, I mean, obviously he was raised under Duncan. He was going to be the next man at arms. So then he starts scavenging kind of some Horde tech, and you know, he helps Cronus. You know, he gives him a prosthetic arm and stuff like that, scavenged from you know, remains of Horde troopers and stuff, and basically builds him up into Trapjaw. And you know, he could even find some scrapped visor that he uses it to help improve his vision, because the cloudiness has never really left, but he's rigged this thing so that it helps, you know, basically corrective lenses. So
and corrective lenses in the sense of that technology there, you have, you know, Horde visor and this stuff,
right,
where he's realizing, like, all of a sudden, mate, what if like one of the Horde troopers, this robot that they killed, like the lens on top of that Horde robot, he looks through it and he's looking around and like Evelyn's magic, it like creates this glow in a certain way.
Yeah.
And then he turns it over to to Keldor and humans glow a certain way. And he's like, oh, if I use this lens, I can just twist it right here and I'll be able to see this supernatural element that I wouldn't be able to see with my normal corrective lens. Right. And so that's kind of what gives them the idea to, I'll have to find the picture. It's actually pretty cool. I actually did a Triclops kind of a revision, and basically it's a triangle and it's got the 3 circles in it. And it's one of those like, do you see it better this lens or this lens? Do you see it better this lens or this lens? And I created a revision where Triclops, he had one of those triangle things right here on his helmet, and he had the 3 different color lenses, and it just spun like this. So it was kind of a whole different idea, but kind of keeping the exact same theme, where he could just twist like this blue circle here, and then all of a sudden he'd have the red circle, and it was just that one piece from from the eye doctor machine.
Right.
So it'd be like sort of like that kind of the lens would give him a different property. Where like, hey, this Horde tech is advanced, and I can actually see again whether it's infrared or whatever sort of element it is. It sort of translates more in, like we said, the Call of Duty / warfare type of elements, which could be pretty cool.
Yeah, I like it. So basically during this time, they're all kind of healing up, getting twisted and transformed into what we've come to expect, but in, like I said, kind of a more natural way. I really like it. And at the same time, eventually they would meet up with Biff, who's completely transformed now. I mean, he's the biggest one. But basically,
and he has that element of the thing where it's like, no, it's me. Like it's me. It's where I think I was even saying to you where, let's say he can't speak yet, and he's just like, rah, rah, and in his head he's like, Keldor, it's me. Like internally, that's what he's saying. Keldor's looking at this thing walking up towards him, and all it's saying is raw. And so maybe they get in a little bit of a skirmish to the point where all of a sudden, like, he's just like, it's me. And then Keldor like looks in his eyes and he's like, Biff? Like that type of thing, where I think it could be kind of a cool, a connection, because obviously they've all grown because they all looked up at that ship leaving, and at that moment they have this kind of unifying moment where they're all like, even if we make it back, we were abandoned by them, sort of a thing.
We're the left behind. We are, and for like Triclops and Biff at the time, they literally think they're all alone. They're they don't even have any way of knowing that Keldor and his group, for all they know, they made it back to the ship. So they really thought they were just like, okay, it's me. I'm going to die on this alien world with no one I know. And so Keldor utilizes that so that as they're recouping, like they're really forming this bond to where Keldor knows, okay, even if we go back, even if we make it back, like these are my guys now, and we're going to, we're going to take it to the council. That's Keldor. That's what's getting Keldor through all this. Like, he's like, I'm going to get back at Randor. I'm going to get back at the council. He's even turning on Hiss at this point. He's like, I'm done. This is it. I'm going back there. I'm taking over. I deserve to rule. You're not going to leave Keldor behind. I'm the best there ever was. And it's,
how many grunts did the Horde troopers take back to Fright Zone to experiment on? Was it
3? There were 3 grunts.
Okay. Interesting.
And so
I know one of the grunts was he was just kind of a sort of a rebels type of daredevilish character. He always loved jumping out of the plane first. He always loved like, hey, I might not make it back from this mission. There's one guy like that, I'm pretty sure.
Yep. And then there was uh, the guy who, well, it was his best friend actually. They weren't high up in the group, so Randor probably didn't even know their name. But yeah, he was best friends with that Daredevil. Always willing to uh, stick an arm out for anyone, stick their neck out for anyone. Really just anything they can give, he would. So
right.
Yep.
But
And
because he gave so much when he served, served Eternia, and he joined up to serve Eternia. A lot of people think that like whether it be his home life and Eternia life and his marriage and family, he was just stretched thin. He felt like he was being pulled in every direction.
Exactly. Yeah. Yep. One of those guys. Yep. And then the other guy was he was more kind of a civil services worker. He was always really good with the water and everything. Back at he was a firefighter actually before he joined up, but he just felt it was his duty. But he was always really good with plumbing and water and everything. So
yep.
They're good.
And those guys are being experimented on, so they obviously
everybody thinks they're dead, but really, come to find out that the Horde does a lot of these kind of genetic and technological manipulations on people, and that's their whole shtick. So,
interesting.
Who knows what'll happen to those guys?
That could bode for an interesting future.
It could. It could. And so I guess the last big part of our epic origin story here is Keldor was, I mean, they know they're stranded. So Keldor was actually going to go bargain with Hordak to find a way home and to try and get them back. Like, he actually just goes up there and waving the white flag and seeks an audience, I feel. And he's basically, he's like, I'll do whatever you want if you get me back to Eternia.
Right.
And so, to me, I think this is where we make, this is the easiest way in this universe to make the transition, especially since we know the Horde is doing these genetic and technological experiments. Like Hordak says, okay, I'll send you home, but I'm going to experiment you on it first. He could even phrase it as like, I'm going to experiment on you. If you survive this, I will send you home, because he's got this really gruesome experiment he wants to try that no one's ever lived through before. And have it and basically he ends up turning him into a skeleton-like creature, like a living skeleton. Hordak's doing this, create an army that can feel no pain and stuff like that. I mean, there's some ways you can play with that, and have it just be that magic combination of I think we've already hinted that Keldor's got a bit of innate sorcery to him, even if he doesn't know it, coupled with just that fire for revenge is what makes him be the first to survive this crazy experiment that's literally ripping the flesh from his body. And it really amps up his sorcery powers.
I like it.
It's almost like a really bad version of the Captain America super soldier experiment.
Right.
It's like the most demonic or damned version of that that Keldor signs on for. Yeah.
Exactly.
And the thing with that too is you could, I mean, okay, so this could take it into, obviously we're talking about a franchise here, so I'll go into it. You have it be where Keldor says, I'll do this for you, but you got to send my crew back. Like, Keldor doesn't even go back. Keldor is like, I'll turn into this. You can do this to me, but you need to send all of these guys back. So basically, when he sends back Evelyn, Beastman, Triclops, Trapjaw, Snoutspout, Extendar, and
spoiler alert,
and Dragster. He sends all of those guys back. Now, only two of them actually want to go back and be masters.
Right.
But the rebel without a cause and all the other ones that felt like they were intentionally left behind for dead, they start this new faction in part of Eternia, waiting for, and maybe he says something to Evelyn. Because now he's in love with this chick because she's crazy.
Right.
And he says, I'll find my way back. So whether or not he's turned directly into Skeletor right at that moment, or Keldor serves under Hordak for a short period of time, waiting for his chance to seek revenge and get back. And who knows, in that pocket of time, he bargains with Hordak and says, if I go back, and he says, you have to bring me a child, one life for one life.
Right.
And that's how he earns his way back. Go with it.
What? Well, no, I like that. I like that he would obviously jump at the chance to go get this baby of Randor's. You know, I like that you bring up a good point. Skeletor needs to be gone for a while. And then when he comes back, Randor's settled down. He's got the kids and everything.
And I like that he comes back. I like that when he comes back, he has his own faction waiting, because Evelyn and that faction, they've been preparing for him.
The only thing I want to put in there is he's more than happy to go get the baby for Hordak. He doesn't even care what happens to it. Like you said, he gets to hurt Randor and, do this for Hordak. He's all in. But I don't see Hordak willingly letting this guy go. Because he's the only person who's ever survived this experiment. He's training him. He's immense power. Skeletor goes on the mission gladly, gets the baby, goes to the drop-off point, and that's when he basically gives Hordak the middle finger and says, I'm done. Here's the baby. I'm not coming back. And he's gained so much sorcery and power that he can now close these portals on his own. Like, he messes with Hordak's thing.
He's not only has Hordak been doing stuff to him, and he's been working for Hordak, he's also been discovering stuff on his own and planning for this moment.
Like, Hordak doesn't... Right, Hordak doesn't realize how much power he's really gained. Skeletor's been hiding from him how powerful he really is. He's been sneaking lessons with Shadow Weaver. You know what I mean? Like, he's... And so when the time comes, he, like I said,
maybe Shadow Weaver helps him because he's connected to Shadow Weaver in a certain way that Hordak never has, because Shadow Weaver is her elemental side of the magic, where Hordak comes from more of the technology side of things.
Exactly. Yeah, and so that leads to the betrayal. That leads to the okay, we're done here. I'm out of the Horde, and then that just ticks Hordak off. You know, he's like, hey man, that's Skeletor. When I get back there, he is gonna pay for this. You know what I mean?
So then you have it where Randor doesn't know technically who took the baby.
Right.
You have
he just knows this demon took it. Like, he's got and I like that. I think that's important. Don't let Randor know right off the bat that this is Keldor.
Mm-hmm. I'm down.
So
you're good, Shawn.
The one thing I was going to say is the way this goes, it's like an evil version of Doctor Strange. But if you think about it, I'm not saying you're cribbing it completely, but the thing that I like is, he comes, he needs the help. He goes. It's like going to the Ancient One, and the Ancient One is like, well, and then they bring him in. He gets everything he needs, and the astral form is learning stuff in the background while he's doing other stuff. And he's, I kind of dig that. And it's like here's the darker version of that.
There's no original story anymore.
Well, I'm not trying to be that guy, but I like it. But the thing is, something I thought of watching 2000X, and the episode in particular where it went into, when he met Evelyn. Because you guys are establishing about meeting her and all that stuff. And in that one, I was like, how crazy would it be to have a show or a movie? I know they did it in certain things, but focusing, instead of the hero having the love interest, it's the villain having the love interest for once. Because Teela and He-Man, it's hinted, and there's fan speculation. But Evelyn and Keldor, there is legit, like, I like what I see. You know, like her doing that whole thing.
I guess even unintentionally, like, you know, Rodriguez threw this out there, but basically we were looking at the whole thing like this is Keldor's story. Like, that's the way that's the way this is all played out in my mind. I didn't even put it to words like that, but when he threw this out there, I'm like, everything, just about every plot point is like, this is why he is the way he is in this story. It's all about him. It's about those guys, the Left Behind guys. It's about their transformations. They're dealing with that and their reasons for it. Now, it's not saying you could then shift, because I think that would basically make up the bulk. I would think that would be the bulk of the first story arc, Matt. I don't know if you're on the same page, but that would be the end of it is him getting back to Eternia, betraying Hordak, and meeting up with this group, and it's like, okay, and that's one. You know what I mean?
And the thing is too, you have Beastman transformed. Trapjaw and Cyclops are obviously artificial. We have this witch that, like, we don't know that much about, but can we trust her? But the thing too, to keep it tight and more like this new version would be, they come back through, like, they get sent back through the sacrifice of Keldor. So not only do they hate Randor for what he did, their lifelong allegiance with Keldor for literally sacrificing himself. They come back, they're still part of that military. Triclops still is part of that military, but guess what? He still has that with Duncan, where Duncan is trying to say, and Duncan say, hey, I had to do what I had to do, and I'll always regret it. And Triclops literally says, I'll never forgive you. And they still, maybe Evelyn teaches them, or they, you know, she's part of this new, whether it be faction, but like this new arm of the military government in Eternia, because now we have more of this technology, or this more magic side, where Triclops understands more of this technology. So now Triclops is inventing stuff that Duncan might not have ever invented, because he's using this sort of like Vulture in Spider-Man, is it Far From Home or No Way Home or whatever? Homecoming, where like you're using this new technology to make stuff.
I didn't
and
think
so
about that.
Yeah, keep going. You're good.
So they come back and they're back in the military. That's even better. So then when Skeletor shows up, he's actually got,
they're embedded.
He's got spies, and I mean, eventually they're gonna make in this. I would assume that's where the second arc is going, where it's Skeletor staging the coup, the Great Unrest. You know, they're pulling. You know, now they're getting just Royal Guardsmen on their side, and it's going into more of a Hail Hydra, like, hey, we were here all along. Triclops has built all these fail safes in and everything else, where it really
that when they do leave, then Dragster's like, F you guys, I'm gonna have fun with these bad guys, like, you know, and like everyone's like really drawing the line in the sand, where they become, I guess, what would the term be if you're dishonorably discharged? Like, they would be basically
they're AWOL. They go AWOL.
They go AWOL, and that's when Snake Mountain Snake Mountain in this would be like a bunker hideout / secret base location, where it's like, that's in this mountain, and that's where they can hide.
And even then, right before they leave, like, Triclops like does a virus or a failsafe or something, like shuts everything down. So where like Man-at-Arms is like, they're gonna attack here. They took a ton of weaponry, they took vehicles, they took everything, and we've got nothing. You know, it really that could really up some stakes there.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I think that whole arc for the second one shows how the divide happens. Snake Mountain is formed.
Right.
they have their faction, and it sets it up for the third, which would be
Civil War.
He-Man.
Oh, it's He-Man. Okay, yeah.
Oh, are we doing Civil War?
Well, I guess the second one, I guess, would be Civil War, and then the third one would be like the Return of the Jedi. The Savior comes.
Right.
Adam stepping up, yeah.
So and we've ran really long today, guys. We will come back to this. I want to. We're putting on right now. I want to plot out this second one, and then we're going to come back a third time. We're going to do the third one. So Matt, you got to come back at least 2 more times.
I appreciate you guys. I'm sure my
Sean's got one more thing, I think.
Yeah. I got to throw one more thing in here, and this is actually going for the female audience, especially certain toy hunters out there. She thought that the Rise of Evil 2-pack Keldor was quite attractive, if I remember correctly.
Right.
So one thing that I think needs to be done in this, because like I said, the whole idea of the villain gets the romance in this versus the hero, where the hero is the one that they have the will they or won't they. They don't have a defined more brother and sisterly relationship at that point. So you have Keldor working in with his charms and his goatee and everything with Evelyn.
Right.
And then after he goes through the trials with Hordak, the fact that he survives it works his way in with Shadow Weaver. Right. And he's using every possibility and everything in his arsenal, including his charm and charisma and that goatee to make sure he gets back to his people again. Right. But I like that where it's like Masters doesn't have that typically. But it's like, and out of all the characters to say Skeletor would be the guy, but when you look at him as Keldor, you're like, oh yeah, I wouldn't trust anybody. I wouldn't trust my wife alone with that guy. Right. And I don't think Matt would trust his wife alone with that guy. So there's that element there of that could be kind of fun to play with and have them in a different light for a little bit.
Unrelated, Sean, but does it look like Matt's trying to grow a goatee right now? It looks like he's got a little something going on there.
By chance, I don't know. Maybe she's talked him into having a little bit of a
weird there.
A little something.
Just saying.
You never know.
No, I like that.
I'm going to start calling her Evelyn Powers.
There you go.
I love it. Excuse me. No, this has some potential here. I like it. Well, how about that? Because I know you mentioned the goatee afterwards. I guess I was envisioning after the trials with Hordak that he does actually have the skull face. What do you guys think?
No, he does.
I think you were gone at that point. I think you definitely could go that route, or you could go the route of still having the 2000X him and Randor standoff situation happen. I think you could go either way.
You could. I kind of like the fact that if you went the opposite way and you had him with the skull face by that point, and Shadow Weaver is more drawn to him then.
Yeah.
And there's that element.
Like he's still got all his charm and everything, but
to me,
I think he still loses his face. I think the Hordak trials make him lose his face. And I think that helps because, like I said, I don't want the second he shows back up for Randor to be like, "Oh, hey, Keldor, what's going on?" Like that.
Exactly.
Even in 2000X, that didn't sit well with me. It's like, no, that's too soon.
The thing with that is too, actually, if we do go that way, then him literally, like, what kind of saint would he be? He shows back up,
right,
X amount of years later, because he sacrificed himself, sending his troops back. His troops come back. They're like, this guy's a hero. He's still over there. We've got to try to figure out how to get him back. Randor and the community and the and everyone, as far as from the military standpoint, it's like, no, it's not worth it. We already know that.
Right.
But then when he shows back up on his own as this mangled skull face, where you get it, we're like, okay, honestly, could you I mean, that's a complete new twist. But could you imagine this hero of war who looks like Skeletor coming home and like the country of Eternia celebrating that, like that
Mm-hmm.
guy who looks like that. Like, that's weird, but kind of cool. Like, little kids are like, Skeletor is my hero. You know what I mean? Like, that's that's a crazy weird angle.
Yeah.
All right, guys, stay tuned. Part 2 of our Masters of the Universe saga is going to be epic. Oh, Shawn, we're almost 3 hours. Why don't you go ahead and take us away here?
I'm sorry, guys.
No, I love it, but I know I got to get to cooking dinner, or I'm gonna have some Rugrats that are putting me through a civil war. So,
all right. On today's episode, we found out all it takes is a little wonder to make a 3-hour episode. I know Matt and I would like to thank Matthew Rodriguez, and yes, I'm sorry I missed out on the intro to that earlier, for dropping by and talking about Modern Wonders. Check out his Kickstarter. Make sure that if you can pledge, please do. If you at least share and let other people know that his Kickstarter is still going on for 38 more days as of this recording. Either way, I'm sure he will be thrilled. Matt, Matthew Rodriguez. Now that I have 2 Matts I'm talking to, this is hard. Matthew Rodriguez, where can we find you online so that people can get more of your goodness for Ideas from Mars?
Ideasfrommars.com, and also Ideas from Mars on Facebook, and Defenders of Eden on Facebook, Disciple 6 on Facebook, and if you search Modern Wonders on Kickstarter, watch the video, check it out, and I hope you like it. So thank you.
There you go. So you have no reason not to find him one way or the other. Support the Kickstarter, or at least learn about the new stuff he's going to put out there, because it seems like every other day there's a new idea he's got that he's throwing out there for everybody, which is awesome. So thank you, Matthew Rodriguez, for joining us once again and tying the highest amount of guest appearances that we had to date on the show. If you like what we do, hit the like button here, subscribe, hit that bell, ring that bell, do the notifications so that you will get the latest episodes of Legends of Grayskull. If you want to reach out to us, find our Facebook group, Legends of Grayskull Podcast on Facebook, or logpod85@gmail.com to send anything. Or, hey, just comment on the video. That's also, we're more than happy to interact that way. And until next time.
Until next time, guys, stay legendary.
Oh, come on. Ah, rock! Oh, bear. Oh, bear. Oh!